Caleb briefly considered one possibility. Maybe Rado and Hawk had run away, but he rejected that thought almost instantly. Lords were tied to their territories. Even if they themselves tried to flee, their domains would always remain. If their territory was destroyed, they would only become free lords. Their heroes would have a high chance of turning on them, and they'd lose the ability to summon monsters altogether. No sane lord would throw everything away like that. So the chance that Rado and Hawk had simply betrayed him and run was almost zero. Then why had they both disappeared? And why at the same time? Caleb sank in a deep thought. No one around him dared to interrupt. They stood quietly, waiting for his decision. After a while, Caleb finally spoke. Who was the last person to see them? Silence. Even the woman who had seen Hawk yesterday kept her mouth shut. The whole situation felt wrong to her. She suspected Hawk and Rado really had betrayed Caleb. But if she spoke up and guessed wrong, there was a chance Caleb would decide she was involved too. And Caleb was not someone who forgave suspicion. So she stayed quiet. Caleb's sharp gaze swept over everyone. The longer no one answered, the colder his eyes became. Just as he was about to speak again, a timid voice broke the silence. "Boss!" Caleb turned toward the speaker. A young woman stood there, clearly nervous. He didn't know her well, but if she was here, she was part of his group. I saw Hawk," she said. Caleb's brows drew tighter. "Where?" "This morning," she replied, voice trembling. "I was leading the second group of lords to harvest food when I saw Hawk riding a rhino, heading deeper into the forest. I asked where he was going, but he looked at me like he wanted to kill me. So I didn't dare say anything else." Caleb listened without changing expression, but suspicion still flickered in his eyes. He was smart, careful, and far less impulsive than Hawk or Rado. That was exactly why he'd become the true leader of this group. "You're saying Hawk was riding a rock rhino and went deep into the dark forest?" The girl shivered slightly, then nodded. "Why, yes. Was Rado with him?" She shook her head. I didn't see Rado." Caleb mulled over her words, connecting them with what he already knew. After a moment, he spoke again. "Do you understand what will happen if you lie to me?" The girl immediately dropped to her knees, body trembling. "Boss, I wouldn't dare lie to you. I really saw him go into the dark forest. I just don't know where exactly he was heading." Caleb studied her expression carefully. Fear like that was hard to fake. His wariness didn't disappear, but his trust in her increased a little. "Fine. I'll look into this myself," he said at last. He turned to the others. "Continue your usual work, but keep a close watch on Rado and Hawk's territories. If they return or anything strange happens, report to me immediately." "Understood." "Yes, boss," they answered in unison. Caleb waved his hand to dismiss them. They all turned to leave. "Wait." Everyone froze and looked back. Caleb's gaze settled on the young woman. "Your name?" She stiffened under his stare. I'm Anna." "Good. I'll remember it. You can go." Anna finally let out a breath of relief. She stepped outside and soon vanished into the darkness. Not long after, she slipped into the depths of the dark forest. This forest was dim even during the day. At night, it turned into a mass of pitch-black shadows. You could raise your hand in front of your face and still see nothing. Yet Anna walked as if she could see clearly, moving through the darkness with steady steps. After some time, she spotted a flicker of light ahead. There was a torch burning in the distance. She quickened her pace, then knelt down in front of the torch and bowed her head. "Master, I have completed the task." Erlgug stood in front of her, torch in hand. Erlgen loomed silently behind him. Erlgug gave a small nod. "Good. Return and continue as normal for the next few days." "Yes, master," Anna replied. She stood up and left without a hint of hesitation. From start to finish, her face showed no emotion at all, like a doll carrying out a programmed order. Once she was gone, Erlgug let out a sigh. "Lady VWSS's hypnotic magic is truly frightening," he murmured. "Not only can she control someone's mind, she lets them keep their own emotions too." He wondered briefly if he could ever reach that level. The answer was obvious. He couldn't. He was only D+ rank. A shaman who specialized in spirit summoning and mental manipulation Yes, but still worlds away from VYLYSS. The more he respected VYLYSS's power, the more reverence he felt for his true master. A master who had set up this entire strategic game. And everyone else, including powerful lords like Caleb, were just pieces being moved around without even realizing it. Let's go. We still have a mission to finish, Erlgug said. Erlgan followed behind him, still unsure what was really happening. But that was fine. He didn't need to understand. As long as there were enemies to fight, that was enough for him. The next morning, Noan woke up. His body was still in good shape despite spending the whole night testing the mattresses had carefully woven. Fortunately, VYLYSS hadn't gone overboard. Otherwise, he wasn't sure he'd even be able to move today. Even so, he stayed sprawled on the bed, not in any hurry to get up. Crit, crit. Ziz crawled onto his chest, clinging to him with all 8 legs. It lay there, looking unusually pitiful and unwilling to let go. Noan immediately remembered how, last night, VYLYSS had strung Ziz up near the ceiling, forcing it to watch the entire festivity. He felt his face heat up a little at the thought. Wait. He paused. Ziz is just a spider, he told himself. It probably doesn't even understand what happened between me and VYLYSS. Right? That had to be it. It was probably just sulking because VYLYSS left it hanging up all night. With that excuse firmly in mind, Noan relaxed. Ziz burrowed into his chest, still refusing to move. Finding it oddly cute, Noan wrapped an arm around it and let it lie there however it liked. Ah, take your filthy hands off me, you degenerate human. A second voice screamed inside Ziz's body. This was the second soul hidden within, the one Noan had no idea existed. From now on, she would be Ziz the second. She had seen, in horrifying detail, everything Noan had done with VYLYSS last night. The thought of those exact hands, now petting her, made her want to vomit. In her memory, succubi were nothing but filthy, lowly creatures, tools for human lust. Any man who willingly touched a succubus was, in her eyes, just as disgusting. And now that same man was hugging her. The worst part was that she couldn't fight back. This body was under the control of the other Ziz. No matter how much Ziz the second screamed internally, the spider on the outside only clung to Noan more affectionately. If she'd still had a human face, she would have died again from shame and fury. Noan opened the door to find Caleb standing outside, his brows knit together. What do you want? Caleb didn't bother with pleasantries. Did you kill Hawk and Rado? Noan's frown deepened. Then he suddenly laughed. They're dead? Huh. I figured none of you would die peacefully. He leaned on the doorframe, eyes cold. And if I did kill them, what exactly would you do about it? Seeing the wild look on Noan's face, Caleb's suspicion eased. From the start, he hadn't really believed Noan was capable of killing Hawk and Rado. Hawk was an E+ lord, Rado an E rank. More importantly, Hawk had a D rank hero under his command. That alone was enough to let him dominate this region. Of course, that was under the assumption that Caleb didn't feel like taking that seat himself. If he had, Hawk would have gladly handed it over. Then where was the last place you saw him? Caleb pressed. Noan's expression turned impatient. He crossed his arms, looking one step away from punching Caleb in the face. Why should I tell you? Haven't you humiliated me enough already? My life is so peaceful right now thanks to you. No one dares come near me. No one wants to be friends with me. He gave a bitter laugh. Should I be grateful for that? Caleb's eyes flashed with disdain. If you tell me that secret, I'll let you join my group. You already know Hawk was the so-called boss of this area. But to be blunt, I stood on the same level as him. I just never cared to make it public. If you share that secret with me, I'll guarantee your safety. You'll also get free access to the resource zones. No one will block you. Huh? Noan snorted. His temper flared. Do you think I'm some dog you can leash and drag around? Caleb, I don't care who you think you are. After everything you've done, you and I are already on opposite sides. Caleb frowned. Noan, we're both men. There's no need to be this stubborn. There are more important things in this world than your pride. Is it worth throwing away your future over a single secret? Noan didn't answer. He simply slammed the door in Caleb's face and walked back inside. Caleb let out a quiet sigh and turned away. A young man beside him hesitated before speaking in a low voice. "Boss, why didn't we just grab him? If we captured him and used his territory as leverage, would he still refuse to talk? Why would I drag that useless trash into our group?" Caleb shot him a cold look. "You're the same as Hawk. You only see what's on the surface. Just because he's a Rank F Lord doesn't mean he's easy to handle. If we push him into a corner, he'll bite his own tongue before he hands over that secret. Letting him live a bit longer is more useful than forcing him too early." Caleb had already thought of another angle. If Noan refused to talk, then at the very least, someone in this region would continue to produce food and medicine. If it came down to it, Caleb could simply trade energy crystals for supplies. This region was barren. No one knew when the shared resource zones might run dry. Having a stable food source was always better than gambling on uncertainty. Not to mention, food pills were 100 times more efficient than regular food. One pill could keep an ordinary person full for an entire day. "Boss," the young man spoke again. "Then, do you think he's related to Hawk and Rado's disappearance?" Caleb shook his head. "I'm more than 90% sure he's not." Thinking back to Noan's expression and his choice of words, Caleb quietly tossed his earlier suspicion aside. If a normal person were guilty, their first instinct would be to deny everything and distance themselves. But Noan, from the way he talked, Caleb was almost certain Noan didn't even know Hawk and Rado were missing. Someone guilty wouldn't talk in a way that invites suspicion. Caleb clicked his tongue. "All right, go inform everyone. Also, more and more zombies are appearing at the edge of the dark forest. If you can handle them, kill as many as you can and collect energy crystals. If you can't, then don't take unnecessary risks. Our forces come first. Understand?" "Yes, boss," the young man replied, then quickly left. Caleb headed the other way, muttering under his breath, "Where the hell did those two idiots disappear to?" As soon as Noan stepped back into his room, Zis scuttled in front of him, frantically waving its front legs, its posture clearly screaming that it wanted to tear Caleb apart. Noan chuckled and gently patted its head. "Relax. He doesn't suspect me. And it's still too early. There's no need to kill him yet. Let him manage this region for now. Killing him later won't be too late." Yes, Noan already had his own plans. There were no laws here, only strength. If Caleb stopped leading this area, the entire region would fall into chaos. Should he step up as king himself? No. Noan had no interest in ruling this place. He only wanted to grow quietly and avoid trouble as much as possible. Besides, he had a feeling all these regions would eventually merge someday. He didn't know why. It was just a gut instinct. When that happened, who knew how the rules would change? Keeping Caleb alive as a temporary stabilizer was more useful than removing him now. But if Caleb kept pushing and forced him into a corner, then Noan wouldn't hesitate to find someone else to wear that crown. A puppet ruler. Hearing his words, Zis II silently re-evaluated him. So the brat actually has a brain. If only he used that mind for development instead of that filthy succubus. But something's off. Why is he still fine after sleeping with a succubus? He should be showing signs of having his life force drained already. She found it strange, but the moment her thoughts circled back to that topic, she cut them off. Anything related to that disgusting scene was beneath her. Thinking too much about it felt like it would stain her own soul. Meanwhile, Noan continued his usual routine and started his summons. Today, the double summon bonus didn't trigger. Yesterday, he had used 6 E-rank skeletons to evolve Zis, which meant that for today, he had no way to evolve her further. There were still others that needed evolution, but there was a big problem. Heroes could evolve by consuming different materials. Soldiers weren't that flexible. To fuse them, he needed units of the exact same type and rank. And his remaining troops were all mutated units: skeleton hunters, skeleton swordmasters, shielders, and so on. If he wanted to evolve a skeleton hunter, he needed 3 more skeleton hunters of the same type. That was hard. Mutated monsters were rare. Getting multiples of the same variant was even rarer. Noan shook his head and stopped overthinking it. Instead, he fused all the regular skeletons he had left. One after another, skeletons vanished into the fusion light, turning into stronger forms. Zis the second watched, all 6 eyes widening in shock. What the hell is this? She couldn't hold back a curse. What kind of monster ability is that? He can fuse skeletons to create stronger ones? Does a talent like that even exist? Is that how I evolved too? Her consciousness had awakened late, so she only remembered fragments of her evolution. At first, she assumed Noan had used some extremely rare magic item to evolve her. But what she was witnessing now completely shattered that belief. In her previous life, Zis had lived for more than 1,000 years. That wasn't enough to be called ancient, but it was far from short. She'd crawled up from the bottom, from a weak little thing to a terror that even the dragon clan treated cautiously. And yet, in all that time, she had never seen a skill or talent that allowed monsters to be fused into stronger versions. It went against the very rules of the world. But it was happening, right here, right in front of her.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
The rank of any monster was fixed. If it were to change, it would require some kind of immense power or extremely rare artifact. In the past, Zis had used countless methods to evolve herself, which was why she had gained such terrifying power, enough to make the dragon clan tremble in fear. For this reason, she understood evolution's difficulty more than anyone else. Each evolution was filled with excruciating pain, and the mortality rate exceeded 90%. Only after enduring countless evolutions and experiencing unbearable suffering did Zis reach the terrifying level she once had. But now, Noan had casually performed a few simple motions, not even using magic, yet he could fuse skeletons together to create a stronger monster. She also recalled how, every time she evolved under Noan's influence, there was no pain at all. Instead, it had felt incredibly soothing, as if the warmth and gentleness of the entire world was embracing her. Zis felt as if the world had gone insane. If such a simple evolution talent existed, why had she suffered so much in her past life just to evolve? Though she still found Noan useless and even filthy for sleeping with a succubus, she could not deny that his talent was something she deeply craved. If someone possessed such an ability, what need was there for training? Why bother searching for fortuitous encounters or rare medicinal herbs? They had to lie down, be lazy, and wait for Noan to evolve them. At that moment, Noan realized that, despite successfully fusing his skeletons, no mutated versions had appeared, leaving him frustrated. He opened his information panel and saw that to evolve Zis, and he needed 6 rank D materials. But at the moment, after scraping together everything he had, he only possessed 2 rank D skeletons. He let out a sigh. However, he wasn't in a rush. After all, his almighty fusion talent wasn't going anywhere. If he didn't have enough materials today, he simply had to wait until tomorrow. Seeing Noan's disappointment, Zis II felt utterly confused. Why is he disappointed? Zis II simply couldn't understand. Anyone who possesses such an extraordinary talent should always wear a proud, arrogant smile on their face. Yet, after fusing all his skeletons, Noan's face was filled with frustration and dissatisfaction. With a wave of his hand, he sent the remaining skeletons to guard the territory, then carried Zis onto the bed, planning to nap. After all, he had spent the entire night fighting with VLYSS, and although he wasn't exhausted, he still wanted to rest for a while. He had no idea when VLYSS would come looking for him again, so he needed to ensure his stamina was always at full capacity. AAA. Zis II screamed internally. Let me go, you filthy, depraved, disgusting human. He has tainted me. However, neither Noan nor Zis noticed something outside the window. Perched on a tree branch, a one-eyed crow was silently watching them. A creature like this was extremely strange in a desolate land filled with nothing but zombies. But after observing Noan's house for a moment, the crow flapped its wings and flew deep into the dark forest. Its body merged into the shadows before disappearing completely. At the anomalous point, no, more precisely, at Noan's territory within the anomalous point, a bewitching figure, exuding an aura of deadly danger, sat atop the roof. Her seductive body was wrapped in a black cloak, and her lips painted a deep shade of violet, made her look exceptionally unique, adding to her mystique. Yes, this was Isabel. At that moment, a one-eyed crow suddenly emerged from the distance, gliding toward her before perching on her shoulder. The crow lowered its head, locking onto Isabel's gaze. After a brief pause, a smirk spread across her lips as if she had just witnessed something highly amusing. Ha 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 ha. So, my guess was right. That brat is truly interesting, Isabel murmured, reaching out to gently touch the crow's eye. The moment she did, countless purple magic runes enveloped its body. The crow began to dissolve, its form breaking into countless shimmering particles before vanishing entirely. Noan, Isabel whispered his name, her eyes flashing with intrigue. I hope you continue to entertain me. Master, a sudden voice called out from below. Two men clad in black cloaks stood there. They were Isabel's subordinates, one named Akai, the other Aki. Upon seeing them, Isabel allowed her body to fall freely from Noan's rooftop, a drop of at least 7 meters. However, just before her feet touched the ground, a gust of wind gently lifted her, nullifying all impact. She landed gracefully, as light as a bird, before gazing calmly at Akai and Aki. Has the Federation government made a move? Akai was the first to respond. Master, just as you predicted, the Federation government refuses to negotiate with us. They truly intend to drive us out of anomalous point number 3. Hearing this, Isabel let out a mocking laugh. Then let's go. Wait, what? Akai and Aki blinked in shock, immediately questioning, Master, are you saying? There's nothing to hesitate about, Isabel replied with a smile. This place is just as good. Staying here works just fine. Akai and Aki were stunned. The two exchanged uneasy glances before looking back at her. Master, please reconsider. This land is a barren wasteland filled with zombies. There's absolutely nothing else here. So what do you suggest? Isabel frowned. Do you plan to go against the Federation government? Akai and Aki fell silent, neither daring to respond. Enough, Isabel said. For now, we should lay low. The recent events have given the Federation government and the empires enough headaches. If we continue stirring up trouble, they'll lose their patience and put everything they have into hunting us down. Besides, we've been carrying out dangerous missions for too long, constantly risking our lives. Now that we have a rare moment of peace, we should enjoy it while it lasts. Without a reply, Isabel's body dissolved into black mist and vanished into the distance. Akai and Aki exchanged glances, sighed, and hurried after her. The chaotic region. Caleb knew Hawk's disappearance would cause major upheaval, especially regarding who would be the next ruler of this region. Hawk had been able to dominate because he possessed a Rank D hero. Caleb glanced at the others. None of them had a Rank D hero or stronger, except himself. That left only one choice. He would have to step up as the next king of this region. If the region remained leaderless, chaos would consume everything. Once they learned that Hawk and Rado were gone, the other lords would grow confident, band together, and attempt to overthrow Caleb's group. That was why, immediately after leaving Noan's territory, Caleb declared himself the new king of the region. Of course, he had to prove why he deserved it, by revealing his Rank D+ hero to the public. Hawk had been feared just for having a Rank D hero. Now that Caleb had shown up with a Rank D+ hero, any thoughts of betrayal or rebellion were crushed. Meanwhile, Noan couldn't care less about any of this. He was simply focused on resting. Elsewhere, 3 men were having a conversation. If one looked closely, one of them was the young man who had been with Caleb earlier that morning. He cursed angrily at the other 2. Damn it, I don't understand why the boss won't let us deal with that bastard. One of the others spoke up. The boss has a point. If we push him too far, he might take that secret to the grave rather than reveal it. TSK. I know that, the first man spat. But does that mean we're supposed to stand back and do nothing? I feel the same way. The more I look at him, the more he pisses me off. Damn it. I think we should just capture him. Wait. Aren't you worried that the boss will find out and... Relax. The young man who had been with Caleb that morning grinned viciously. Hawk and Rado are gone. Now is the time to prove we're just as capable as those two bastards. As long as we extract the secret from that piece of trash Noan, the boss will trust us and put us in charge of this entire region. The other two exchanged glances. It made sense. What are you all talking about? A voice suddenly rang out, followed by a young woman approaching them with a smile. Can I join in? Anna, the young man frowned. What do you want? My goal is the same as yours. Anna smirked. I want to get the secret out of that bastard. However, she continued, her smile unwavering, the disappearance of Hawk and Rado is still a mystery. It might even be connected to him. That's why we need to be careful. At the very least, we shouldn't end up drowning in our own trap. The three men looked at each other before turning back to Anna. Then, what do you suggest we do? It's simple. Anna shrugged, her smile never fading. We gather as many people as possible, leave him no openings to fight back. And once we have the secret, one of them asked. Anna's smile widened. Then we kill Noan. Or better yet, we overthrow Caleb. The three of them were startled by Anna's words, filled with hatred, and could only remain silent. But after a moment, a young man spoke up. Oi, you're joking, right? What? Are you really willing to be his dog? Anna glanced at the young man, her voice full of contempt. That, he hesitated. Indeed, who would willingly be someone else's dog in this world? He only submitted to Caleb because he was weaker than him. If he had the ability, he would have overthrown Caleb and become the king of this territory. However, he simply didn't have the power to do so. In reality, he was just an F+ rank lord. He didn't even possess a single E+ rank monster or hero. The strongest hero under his command was only rank E, but compared to Caleb's D+ rank hero, his was an insignificant ant. You won't succeed in sowing discord among us. Another young man suddenly spoke up. Anna snorted disdainfully. You don't even want to be his dogs yourselves. What's the point of pretending to be united? You're only loyal because you don't have the ability to overthrow Caleb. But what if you did? That's enough, the young man snapped. He frowned and told Anna, I'll pretend I never heard a word you said. Get lost. Anna glanced at the three young men. Their expressions were a mix of excitement, anxiety, and fear. She shook her head. A bunch of cowards. With that, she turned and walked away. The three of them watched her retreating figure, then muttered under their breath. What the hell is that bitch thinking? There's no way we could overthrow the boss, right? Adrian? Adrian was the same young man who had accompanied Caleb that morning. However, he didn't seem to hear what the other was saying. Instead, he remained silent, his head lowered as if deep in thought. Adrian, the young man shouted. Adrian jolted. Did you just call me? Adrian, do you want to overthrow the boss? The two young men asked in fear. You have to understand how powerful he is. We're just weaklings. Of course, I know that. You don't need to warn me, Adrian replied. However, a seed of betrayal had already been planted deep in his heart. After summoning and fusing the skeletons the next day, he took advantage of the early hours before dawn to slip away. Naturally, no one would notice his departure thanks to VYLYSS using the veil of darkness to conceal him. Noan wanted everyone to think that he was still inside his territory. This time, he didn't bring Zis along. Instead, he traveled with VYLYSS because Zis would stay behind to guard the domain. Upon entering the dark forest, VYLYSS carried him for over 20 miles before stopping at a fork where 3 narrow paths branched off. Master, this road leads to a river nearby, while the other leads to another forest. Indeed, these 2 paths led to different areas where food supplies could be gathered. However, Noan felt a bit exhausted. While adjusting his clothes, he grumbled, You could use magic to make me fly instead of carrying me like this. From the moment they set out until now, VYLYSS had carried him the entire way. Naturally, she also took every opportunity to tease him during the flight. Master, you do realize that using magic to help you fly would drain much of my energy, VYLYSS giggled mischievously. But if I carry you instead, it doesn't consume much. We can even strengthen our bond. No, I really want to ask, does our bond even need strengthening? He sighed and asked, are there no zombies or monsters on either of these paths? VYLYSS shook her head. That's right. It's strange. Zombies don't seem to venture onto these two roads. Noan nodded. This time, he wanted to test whether the storage function worked as he imagined. He didn't choose to go to the nearby river, but took another path. Once again, VYLYSS carried him as they flew about 5 miles before spotting another forest. This forest was entirely different from the dark forest. It resembled a tropical rainforest bathed in warm sunlight, making it seem peaceful and serene. Master, there are many edible fruits in this forest, and even some small animals like rabbits and deer, VYLYSS said while holding Noan. Hearing that, Noan simply nodded lightly. There's no need to go there. The place I need to reach is the resource storage center. Indeed, food wasn't currently an issue for him. What he sought was the resource storage center. Noan wanted to upgrade his territory and construct additional buildings. The resource storage center you mentioned is just ahead, VYLYSS said, her expression suddenly turning serious. However, Master, you should hold on to me tightly because the area ahead is dangerous. No, although he didn't know what kind of danger lay ahead, nor whether VYLYSS was telling the truth or just teasing him, he still tightened his grip around her. After crossing the vast forest, Noan was immediately met with a sight that sent a chill down his spine. A horde of zombies. That's right, not just a small group. There were at least over 5,000 zombies. Moreover, Noan could spot numerous lickers lurking among them. This was probably why no lords in his region had been able to gather resources to develop their territories. All the lords here were merely ranked F and E. How could they make it through an area guarded by 5,000 zombies? Master, hold on tight, VYLYSS suddenly commanded. By instinct, Noan clung to her firmly. VYLYSS moved like a fighter jet the next moment, executing a swift aerial arc. Immediately, several zombie birds emerged, surrounding them. VYLSS furrowed her brows and murmured coldly, "Trash." She swung her hand, and countless chains pierced through the air, instantly shattering the already decayed bodies of the creatures. The chains didn't go to waste either. They wrapped around the energy crystals and flung them toward VYLSS. The zombies below heard the noise and looked up, but they couldn't fly. All they could do was stand motionless, staring at VYLSS and Noan. At that moment, Noan spoke. VYLSS, if we were to fight, could you wipe out all these zombies? VYLSS looked down. The 5,000 zombies resembled a vast swarm of ants covering a large area, a sight that would make anyone shudder. Master, if they were all just regular zombies, I could easily eliminate them. However, VYLSS hesitated slightly before admitting, D-rank zombies are among them. I can't take them all down with my current energy level. Hearing that, Noan nodded. I understand. Master. Noan immediately cut her off. No need. He had already guessed what she was about to say, so he responded before she could continue. These zombies appear to be in a stable state. If we disrupt that balance, it will surely lead to big trouble. Just leave them be. We just need to fly past them. In truth, Noan had another reason for not wanting to provoke the horde. It wasn't because he cared about the other lords, but because if the zombies went berserk, they would attack the creatures in the food forest. Noan could sense that he was currently the strongest person in this region. That food forest would belong to him in the future, and he had no intention of ruining his own resources. Even though he was tempted to have VYLSS destroy these zombies and then upgrade his storage function, his rationality thankfully kept him from making that mistake. VYLSS nodded and carried him further away. Of course, they were frequently ambushed along the way by zombie birds, but those creatures were no match for VYLYSS. After flying for more than 10 minutes, Noan and VYLYSS finally arrived at another forest. This time, they chose to walk rather than fly. Noan remained cautious. He followed a narrow path, continuing deeper into the forest. After walking another 2 miles, he finally saw a fenced-off area made of steel mesh, containing 3 small houses built from wood, with roofs made of dried grass and straw. The Resource Storage Center, Noan murmured excitedly. Even though it's only a Level 0 resource storage center, it's more than enough. From what he had learned at the academy, resource storage centers were classified from Level 0 to Level 7. Level 0 was the lowest, containing only 3 basic resources: wood, stone, and food, with a relatively small supply. In this barren region, this place was nothing short of paradise. Looking around, Noan realized that no one seemed to have discovered it yet. Perhaps he was the first to set foot here. "Master," VYLYSS suddenly spoke. Noan followed her gaze and saw a zombie hunter standing on a high branch, watching them. However, this zombie hunter differed from the one he had encountered at the singular point. That is, a mutant zombie hunter. Noan immediately recognized what kind of zombie it was. Its outer skin had transformed into a layer of metallic scales, its razor-sharp claws reflecting the light. Its body was slightly larger than a normal zombie hunter, reaching up to 2.5 meters in height. Noan frowned because an ordinary zombie hunter had already reached Rank D peak, and a mutant hunter was likely approaching Rank C or had already reached it. At this moment, VYLYSS frowned and said, "I'm sorry, Master. When I arrived, I didn't detect it. Now, it suddenly appeared. This is my fault." Noan shook his head. Of course, he didn't blame VYLYSS, as he knew this was simply the defense mechanism of the Resource Storage Center. Every area like this had a guardian monster, and the higher the center's level, the stronger the guardian. VYLYSS did not have the ability to harvest resources within the center, so its defensive mechanism had not been activated. But the moment a lord appeared, naturally, the mechanism would trigger and the guardian beast of this place would emerge. However, one thing puzzled Noan. Based on the exterior of the center, this was only a Level 0 facility, so why was a mutant hunter guarding it? Mutant hunters should only appear if this were a Level 3 or 4 center, or perhaps even higher. But Noan had no time to think or seek an answer. "VYLYSS, can you win?" VYLYSS frowned, then answered honestly, "I will do my best." Hearing this, Noan knew that VYLYSS's chances of victory were not high. She said that because she wanted to preserve at least a little of her pride. Suddenly, countless diamond-shaped magical symbols appeared and interlocked, forming a dome that enveloped the entire area. Seeing this, Noan immediately realized it was too late, even if he wanted to escape. Ding! Activating defense system. Ding! Activating hidden quest. Eliminate the guardian, zombie hunter, mutant. Reward. Failure, death. Even if the system hadn't stated it outright, Noan knew what awaited him should he fail. The only issue was he didn't have the opportunity to bring Erlgan. If he had, his chances of winning this battle would have been much higher. "I'm sorry, Master," VYLYSS said with remorse. Noan shook his head. "It's not your fault. And besides, there's no need for guilt. Right now, the most important thing is figuring out how to defeat it." Suddenly, his bracelet split into 4 parts, transforming into gloves and boots wrapped around his hands and feet. Intricate purple luminescent patterns flickered across the gloves, exuding an aura of mystery. VYLYSS abruptly sensed an overwhelming power emanating from them. What was bizarre, however, was that this power carried an evil and divine presence, as if an ancient gaze from the depths of time was piercing through existence, staring directly at her. VYLYSS shuddered, but fortunately, the sensation lasted briefly before vanishing entirely. She quickly regained her composure, dismissing it as an illusion conjured by her imagination. Noan, on the other hand, felt nothing. His eyes remained locked onto the mutant hunter, and his nerves wound as tightly as guitar strings. Suddenly, the mutant hunter vanished, startling him. He only caught a glimpse of a black streak of light hurtling toward him at an unfathomable speed, so fast that even his body couldn't react in time. Clang! Clang! The sharp sound of metal chains echoed as countless chains pierced through the surrounding space, shooting straight toward the mutant hunter. Noan's breath caught when he realized the mutant hunter's claws were less than 10 centimeters away from his head. Luckily, the chains conjured by SSS had restrained the mutant hunter in midair. However, Noan did not hesitate. In that brief moment, he swung his fist and punched straight at the mutant hunter. Bam! The impact between his fist and its head rang out with an ear-piercing sound. Yet, Noan felt as if he had just punched a solid metal block. A sharp pain shot through his hand. What the hell? Noan cursed inwardly. Is its head really this hard? It was common knowledge that the head was the weakest part of a zombie, but the mutant hunter's skull was as solid as iron. The mutant hunter instantly twisted its body, tearing through all the chains that bound it. Watch out! SSS shouted, waving her hand. A chain appeared, coiling around Noan's waist and yanking him backward. Whoosh! The wind shrieked in his ears. The mutant hunter's claws slashed through the spot where Noan had just been standing, carving 5 deep grooves into the ground as if its talons had merely swiped through soft mud. Noan shivered. If SSS had reacted even a fraction of a second slower, he would have been sliced into pieces. Suddenly, a veil of darkness manifested, enveloping the mutant hunter in a floating black sphere. Countless chains materialized, wrapping tightly around it, forming a cocoon of interwoven links. Everything had happened so quickly, within just 2 or 3 seconds. By the time Noan regained his senses, the mutant hunter was already imprisoned within a mass of chains. However, SSS looked different. Her face was tense, beads of sweat pouring down her skin like rain. Her hands were outstretched toward the chained cocoon, dark magical energy surging from her body, encasing it, as though she was struggling to suppress whatever was inside. However, chong! Shattering rang out as the chains snapped instantly, and the veil of darkness was torn apart. The mutant hunter twisted its body mid-air and landed firmly on both feet. However, just a second later, its figure vanished without a trace. Noan, witnessing this, immediately tried to locate the mutant hunter. Clang! The sharp sound of metal clashing echoed. Noan turned toward SSS and saw the mutant hunter swinging its claws at her while she was using her chains to block the attack. However, SSS's chains couldn't withstand the force for long and were continuously being severed. She quickly soared, but the mutant hunter leaped after her, sticking to her like a relentless shadow. Unfortunately, due to the magical dome overhead limiting height, SSS couldn't take full advantage of her ability to fly. The mutant hunter attacked relentlessly, forcing SSS into a defensive position, barely able to block while constantly retreating. Although SSS was a mutant succubus, she was still a mage and could not compete physically with a mutant hunter, which was overwhelmingly versatile. The mutant hunter far outclassed her in terms of speed, strength, and combat prowess. Noan frowned, uncertain what to do as the battle unfolded beyond his combat capabilities. Suddenly, the abyss cube detached itself from his hands and feet, transforming into a firearm affixed to his left hand. What the? Noan was startled. It was the first time he had seen the abyss cube act independently, assembling into a different weapon without his command. However, he suddenly recalled the silk-shooting ability he had inherited from Zis. He had inherited physical power, magical abilities, and unique traits from his creatures. It was just that these abilities weren't as powerful as when used by the original monsters. Raising his hand, Noan felt the abyss cube seamlessly merge with his palm. Then, bang! The mutant hunter was mid-swing, its razor-sharp claws slashing toward VYOSS's head when a streak of light shot forward at an incredible speed. Clang! VYOSS flinched as the light collided with the mutant hunter's claws, deflecting them from their deadly trajectory. She seized the opportunity, instantly summoning countless chains wrapped around the mutant hunter and yanking it higher. A massive magic circle materialized before her, and from within it, a giant black hand emerged, rocketing forward with immense force. Bam! The impact sent the mutant hunter hurtling backward, its body smashing through towering trees, snapping them like twigs. Thick and dense dust erupted into the air, obscuring Noan's vision. But VYOSS did not stop. With a swift motion, she conjured a shadowy veil that transformed into a long spear. The dark spear was wrapped in several chains, emanating a terrifying aura of destruction. At the same moment, 3 magic circles appeared straight before her, each glowing with a different hue. Dark spear. VYOSS's voice rang out as she hurled the spear. It shot through the 3 magic circles, absorbing their energy and amplifying its destructive power exponentially. Whoosh! The spear became a streak of black light, hurtling straight toward the spot where the mutant hunter had fallen. Bam! For an instant, everything turned black and white, and then silence. In the distance, Noan saw a glowing sphere of light slowly expanding, growing larger and larger until its radius exceeded 100 meters. Without waiting for a command, the Abyss Cube transformed into a shield, positioning itself in front of Noan. Whoosh! 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 Gale force winds surged through the battlefield. Thankfully, the shield formed by Abyss Cube absorbed the shockwave, protecting him. Then came an ear-piercing explosion. The ground trembled violently, as if the world itself was collapsing. Trees were uprooted and flung away like mere leaves in a storm. Dust filled the entire space. As Noan opened his eyes, he saw the mutant hunter right before him. In that brief moment, he realized his life was about to end. And then, a shadowy figure appeared between him and death. VYOSS. The claws of mutant hunter slashed down, but VYOSS's chains immediately ensnared them. However, as soon as she pushed Noan away, the chains were severed. Whoosh! A sound like a blade slicing through flesh rang out. VYOSS's arm was cut off by mutant hunter. It didn't stop there. The creature grabbed one of VYOSS's wings and tore it from her back. AAA! VYOSS screamed, her voice filled with pain and despair. Noan at that moment went mad. He charged at mutant hunter, and the Abyss Cube suddenly transformed into a sword in his grip. The blade slashed downward, but mutant hunter was much faster than Noan and easily dodged the attack. Noan didn't stop. The sword in his hand swiftly morphed into a bow. He pulled the bowstring taut, energy forming into an arrow, and then, whoosh! The wind howling through the air echoed as the arrow was loosed, shooting toward mutant hunter with the speed of a bullet. Clang! However, the arrow struck its body and instantly dissolved into countless light particles, leaving no mark on its flesh. Bam! Mutant hunter's foot stomped on the ground, causing an explosion as its body launched forward like a cannonball, heading straight for Noan. Noan raised his hand, and the Abyss Cube immediately transformed from a longbow into a shield. He held the shield before him, but in the next moment, an immense force slammed against it. Unable to withstand the impact, he was sent flying backward. Bam! His body crashed into a tree before finally coming to a halt. He fell to the ground, coughing up a mouthful of blood, his face pale as if drained of all life. At that moment, Noan felt utterly hopeless. He never imagined that he would have to fight against a monster that had surpassed Rank D peak in a place like this. Even more unexpected was that, despite both him and VYOSS becoming significantly stronger than before, they still ended up defeated here. Noan wanted to stand up, but Mutant Hunter had already appeared before him. And then, bam! Act! Noan spat out another mouthful of fresh blood after Mutant Hunter's foot struck his stomach. The kick was so powerful that it sent him flying backward again, only stopping when he crashed into the protective dome. Noan lay motionless on the ground, feeling as if his stomach had just been shattered. Right now, let alone standing up, even breathing was an excruciating task. Blood streamed from his nose, mouth, and ears like flowing rivers. He could even feel his life force flickering like a tiny candle in a raging storm, ready to be extinguished at any moment. Mutant Hunter suddenly appeared before Noan again, its claws raised high, poised to strike down at his head. Clang! Clang! Just as his life was about to be cut short, countless chains suddenly materialized, wrapping tightly around Mutant Hunter's body. Noan's eyes widened in shock as he turned toward VYLYSS. At this moment, her body was drenched in blood, especially the areas where her arm had been severed and where one of her wings had been torn from her back. VYLYSS gritted her teeth, her remaining hand glowing with an enigmatic purple light, as if desperately trying to hold onto his life force. Mutant Hunter struggled violently, but the chains were not so easily broken this time. PFFF. VYLYSS coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, her face deathly pale, yet her eyes still burned with unwavering determination. Noan knew she was sacrificing her own life to buy him even a few more moments to live. He tried to stand, but the unbearable pain racked his body, rendering him incapable of movement. Come, act! As the chains shattered, VYLYSS spat out another mouthful of blood, her eyes filled with unwillingness as she looked toward Noan. At that moment, time seemed to slow down. Noan saw VYLYSS's lips moving, muttering something. He saw Mutant Hunter's claws descending straight toward his head. He could see everything clearly, yet his body refused to move. A voice suddenly echoed in his mind in what he thought would be his final moment. Do you want to live? Who? Noan's consciousness asked. Who just spoke? That is not important. Just answer my question. Do you want to live? The voice was like a chorus of countless people speaking at once, and it was impossible to distinguish whether it was male or female, young or old. Of course, Noan answered without hesitation. I want to live. I don't want my life to end like this. Very well. Haha. The voice burst into laughter. Then, let's make a deal. I will save you, but you must help me escape from that place. That place? Noan asked in confusion. What place? You will know when the time comes. When those words reached his mind, an overwhelming drowsiness washed over him. His eyelids grew heavy, and soon his consciousness was swallowed by darkness. The Abyss Cube suddenly changed form at that very instant, transforming into a massive hand that immediately seized Mutant Hunter. Growl! Mutant Hunter let out a deafening roar, but then, bam! The enormous hand clenched tight, and in an instant, Mutant Hunter's body exploded into a shower of blood, scattering everywhere. The hand then morphed into a small cube, which landed precisely in Noan's palm. Moments later, it was reshaped into a bracelet wrapped around his wrist, lying there motionless, as if nothing had ever happened. The space fell into silence, so silent that the only sounds left were the breaths of Noan and VYLYSS. It hurts. My body feels like it has been shattered into countless pieces. Noan jolted awake, realizing that he was standing in a pitch-black space. Though utterly dark, he could sense a presence moving within the shadows. An image gradually appeared before him as he struggled to comprehend what was happening. It was a woman, but only from the waist up. Below that, her form fractured like shattered glass, as if she were made of crystal. Despite only having an upper body, she was massive, towering over 100 meters high, resembling a skyscraper. At the center of her chest was a gaping hole, and within it, a swirling black void spun endlessly. Her arms were bound by strange chains on either side, suspending her in a colossal Y shape. But what stood out the most was her face. She was breathtakingly beautiful, so beautiful that Noan found himself unable to breathe. It was so beautiful that he felt such a thing could not exist in this world, only in myths and legends. Yet beneath that beauty lay an overwhelming sorrow in pain so profound that Noan felt as if he might weep. Who are you?" Noan asked. The woman slowly opened her eyes. Bam! When Noan gazed into them, it felt like his mind had been struck by lightning. A sharp pain exploded in his head, his thoughts spiraling into chaos, and his body trembled uncontrollably. However, the sensation didn't last long. A few seconds later, he began to stabilize. When he opened his eyes again, he saw that his body was surrounded by a swirling purple mist, as if it were shielding him. Noan lifted his head and once again looked at the woman. This time, the previous overwhelming sensation was gone. The woman's lips moved as if she were trying to say something. Noan furrowed his brows, straining to hear, but no sound reached him. Seeing his confusion, a hint of disappointment flashed across the woman's face. Then, darkness engulfed everything. Noan suddenly noticed a distant speck of light in the endless black void. He ran toward it. The closer he got, the larger the light became. It had grown to the size of a sun in mere moments, engulfing him and the entire space in radiant brilliance. Noan slowly opened his eyes, realizing that the light he had been chasing was a ray of sunlight shining directly onto his face. He took a long breath and sat up, discovering his body no longer ached. Every wound he had sustained had completely healed. Noan found it unbelievable. He clearly remembered being beaten to the brink of death by Mutant Hunter. How was he now fully recovered? As if nothing had happened. VYLYSS. The moment her name flashed through his mind, Noan immediately looked up and saw her lying in the distance, surrounded by a pool of blood. Without hesitation, he ran toward her. VYLYSS. Noan gently lifted her into his arms, cradling her against his lap. VYLYSS slowly opened her eyes. Her face was pale, drained of all color like a severely anemic patient, yet a satisfied smile still adorned her lips. Master, you're safe, she said, her voice weak and breathless. Stop talking. I'll find a way to help you, Noan said anxiously. Even though she was in excruciating pain, VYLYSS felt warmth fill her heart at his words. Master, don't worry. I only lost an arm and a wing, she said, exhaustion weighing down her voice. It's just a pity that I might be useless to you from now on. Master, will you abandon me? Noan didn't answer. Instead, he pulled her tightly into his embrace, his heart aching so much that it made breathing hard. Master! VYLYSS could no longer hold back her emotions, letting tears stream down her face like flowing rivers. Don't even think about escaping from me. Noan frowned, his voice firm. Master, you still want to keep me even after I become like this? You really are a pervert, she teased weakly. Shut up. Noan scolded, but there was no anger in his voice. Ding! Congratulations on overcoming the gatekeeper's trial. You have received a special treasure chest. Noan was startled when he saw the notification from the system. The gatekeeper? Could it be I killed the mutant hunter? Noan felt a deep sense of confusion. But there was one thing he could be certain of. He couldn't kill the mutant hunter. Could it be that girl? Noan recalled the dream from earlier. He tried to remember her face, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. In his memory, her face was shrouded in a thick mist, obscuring the upper part completely. Yet, when he looked at the blood and the shattered remnants of the mutant hunter's outer skin, he knew for sure. The mutant hunter was dead, but not by his hand. However, that no longer mattered. The most important thing was that he and VYLYSS were safe. More than that, they had somehow completed a hidden mission. At that moment, another notification appeared. Ding! Because you're the first to complete the hidden mission of the Chaotic Zone, the treasure chest has been upgraded to a legendary treasure chest. Ding! Because you completed the hidden mission alone, you have been awarded an additional resource center key. Ding! You have received the Pioneer Medal, which has been placed in storage. Ding! Would you like to announce this achievement to the entire Chaotic Zone? A series of notifications startled Noan. The rewards were abundant, but he lowered his head and looked at VYLYSS lying in his arms, his heart aching as if stabbed by a blade. No, Noan suddenly muttered in his mind. There must be something among these rewards to help me heal her. That's right. He had received a legendary treasure chest. Surely, there would be something inside that could be useful for VYLYSS. He took a deep breath and softly said, VYLYSS, trust me. I will definitely heal you. VYLYSS, upon hearing his words, nodded slightly. Her eyes were half closed as she rested her head against his chest, as if it were the safest and most peaceful place in the world. She said nothing, yet she trusted him completely. From the moment she appeared, she had witnessed the miracles he had brought forth. Noan had not only shattered her perception, but also proven that as long as he remained alive, he would one day stand among the lords of this world. After all, the ability to fuse and evolve monsters was something no one else possessed. Such power was believed to belong only to the gods, yet Noan wielded it. Even if he failed to restore her, she wouldn't mind. VYLYSS believed in him. Even if she could no longer fight, she was willing to resign herself to being nothing more than his plaything, just to remain by his side. A gentle, contented smile suddenly graced her lips, as if she had found the ultimate truth that defined her existence. Noan, however, was different. He had no interest in VYLYSS's thoughts. His only concern was whether the legendary treasure chest would grant him what he needed right now. Hide notifications. Noan commanded. This was the first thing he needed to do. He understood the principle. A common man is innocent, but harboring treasure is a crime. He was still weak, merely a Rank F Lord at level 1. Today's events had given him a lesson he would remember for the rest of his life. It was his negligence that led to this. He had brought only VYLYSS, too arrogant in believing himself to be the strongest being in chaotic zone number 27. And because of that, he had placed both himself and VYLYSS in mortal danger. If he had brought Erlgan along, perhaps the battle wouldn't have been so brutal. However, everything was just an if. In this world, there was no such thing as regret medicine. Fortunately, he and VYLYSS were still alive. He still had the chance to correct his mistakes. And that was why he hid the notifications. He would let no one learn what had transpired today. Once the notifications were successfully concealed, he immediately chose to open the legendary treasure chest. Ding! You have successfully opened the legendary treasure chest and obtained Lord Points, X500 Rainbow Crystal X1 NPC Summon Card X1 Territory Blueprint X1 Random Blueprint X1 Rank F Energy Crystals X1 000 Rank E Energy Crystals X100 Rank D Energy Crystals X10 Rank C Energy Crystal X1 One-time upgrade for the Resource Center. Noan stared blankly at the rewards pile, but his gaze immediately fixed on the rainbow crystal. His instincts told him that this item could save VYLYSS. Name: Rainbow Crystal. Rank: Description: a crystal from another world containing mysterious and immense power. There are rumors that it can help a monster evolve, even awakening the creature's hidden bloodline. Reading the information panel, Noan instantly realized that the rainbow crystal could help VYLYSS recover. He looked at the small crystal, no larger than a thumb, radiating 7-colored light like a divine treasure forged by the gods. Without hesitation, he handed the crystal to VYLYSS and urged, VYLYSS, absorb it. VYLYSS also noticed the rainbow crystal in Noan's hand. Though she was far from ignorant, she had never seen a crystal like this before. However, even without prior knowledge, she could feel the overwhelming power surging from within the crystal Noan held. Her instincts screamed at her, a ravenous hunger welling up inside. Something deep within her urged her to take it, to absorb it. Yet, VYLYSS clenched her teeth and immediately pushed the rainbow crystal back toward Noan, speaking with frustration. Master, I don't know what this thing is, but it seems far too precious. I don't want it. On the contrary, Master, if you use it, you could. Before she could finish, Noan silenced her. His lips captured hers, sealing her words away. At the same time, he placed the rainbow crystal on her chest. VYLYSS's body, beyond her control, immediately began greedily absorbing the energy from the crystal the moment it touched her skin. She couldn't speak, her lips lost in the depth of Noan's kiss. But tears continued to fall. This time, however, they were not tears of pain. They were tears of happiness. She was just a succubus. No matter how powerful, her potential had always been limited. Using something as priceless as the rainbow crystal on a succubus was nothing short of extravagant, like throwing a chunk of gold into the sewers. And yet, Noan had done it. He had given her this chance to recover and retain her complete form. Even without the binding contract of Lord and Hero, VYLYSS swore to herself that she would never allow something like today to happen again. Master, I will protect you. I swear, I will protect you. Forever by your side. Forever loving you. VYLSS whispered silently in her heart, closing her eyes and letting herself melt into this intoxicating moment. The rainbow crystal slowly sank in her chest, disappearing completely. At that instant, a divine and majestic energy erupted. Simultaneously, a dark and insatiable force also emerged. Two opposing energies, each carrying completely different essences, surged into VYLYSS's body. It was strange. These two conflicting forces should have clashed and repelled one another, and yet they intertwined seamlessly. They began to fuse slowly, forming a massive energy sphere within VYLYSS's body. Guided by the power of the rainbow crystal, a stream of radiant energy carrying 7 colors intertwined with a swirling black and white force seeping into every part of her being. Noan pulled away from VYLSS's lips, his eyes widening as her body radiated an intense glow. He flinched instinctively, but when he saw her wounds healing, her severed arm and torn wings slowly regenerating, his heart filled with joy. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupted, sending Noan flying backward over 5 meters. He steadied himself with effort, his gaze locking onto VYLSS, who now hovered mid-air, enveloped in those strange, conflicting energies. Then, countless magical symbols materialized, weaving together to form a cocoon around her. Noan could no longer see her, as the layers of magical runes were so dense that they wrapped around her like countless layers of fabric. However, he wasn't worried. He knew VYLYSS was evolving. Patiently, he waited beside her. More than an hour passed before a system notification appeared before him. Ding! Congratulations! You have successfully evolved VYLYSS, and she becomes Fallen Believer, Rank B. Noan saw the announcement and was startled, his eyes filled with disbelief. Rank B? What did that even mean? Of course, Noan knew exactly what Rank B represented. In a region dominated solely by Rank F and Rank E Lords, a Rank B hero was akin to a king, an overwhelming existence that no one could overthrow. Any lord who possessed a Rank B hero would immediately be placed into the Federation government and the Empire's key development program. That alone was enough to understand the significance of a Rank B hero. Leaving potential aside, just in terms of raw power, a Rank B hero was already of paramount importance. This isn't good. Noan jolted, quickly trying to calm himself. I can't be arrogant. I must restrain myself. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to regain composure. To say he wasn't feeling arrogant would be a lie. Owning a Rank B hero, anyone would feel so proud that their eyes would only look to the heavens. Noan was just an ordinary person, and his thoughts were simple. However, the recent lesson about the mutant hunter had sobered him up considerably. Even with a Rank B hero, he still needed to be cautious. He could not afford to be arrogant, nor could he afford to boast. While VYLYSS had not completed her evolution, Noan opened her status screen to check. Name, VYLYSS. Class, Fallen Believer. Level, 0. Rank, B. Description, surpassing even a succubus. VYLYSS is capable of receiving the blessings of both the Goddess of Desire and the Goddess of Purity. She is a disciple, but she is fallen, yet both goddesses still wish to claim her. She stands between the boundary of darkness and light. She is a fallen disciple. Note, To evolve VYLYSS, 15 rank B materials are required. Noan found VYLYSS's description unusually abstract. Normally, the descriptions of monsters would clearly outline their strengths and weaknesses. But VYLYSS's description was strange. Just a few lines imbued with poetic language, nothing more. As he was still struggling to comprehend, a violent gust of wind erupted, sending him flying toward the cocoon, which was formed from countless magical sigils. No, it was as if he already knew what fate had in store for him. That's why he didn't resist. From within the cocoon, a hand as flawless as if it had been sculpted by a master artist extended outward, grasping his wrist before pulling him inside. 2 hours later, the cocoon vanished. VYLYSS emerged wearing a black dress, her wings behind her now perfectly restored. Most notably, her skin had become even softer, carrying a faint rosy hue that exuded an irresistible allure. Her eyes shimmered, revealing 2 pink heart-shaped pupils that glowed with a dazzling light. Just below her navel, exactly 10 centimeters down, was the heart-shaped sigil Noan had seen before. Now, that sigil had transformed, its colors split between black and white, with a radiant pink at the center. Noan recalled the moment earlier, when they had enjoyed themselves together. The sigil had emitted a soft, enchanting glow that clouded his mind with unrelenting desire. He shook his head, unwilling to dwell on what had just transpired. He feared that the more he thought about it, the deeper he would sink into VYLYSS's intoxicating sweetness. However, it seemed VYLYSS had no intention of letting him go. She hovered behind him, wrapping her arms tightly around his neck. Her warm breath caressed his ear, igniting his desire once more. "Master, are you satisfied?" VYLYSS's sweet voice rang out. Noan shuddered. He was beyond satisfied. He felt like his soul had just ascended to heaven. However, he had almost died. Damn it. He never expected VYLYSS to become this powerful after evolving. Even though she hadn't drained his life energy, she had completely exhausted his essence, leaving him on the verge of truly ascending to heaven. "All right, let me get some work done," Noan sighed and said. VYLYSS smirked mischievously before her body instantly dissolved into darkness, merging into a shadow. Noan held the resource center key and walked toward the door. As soon as he inserted the key into the lock, a notification appeared before him. "Ding! Congratulations! From now on, you're the sole owner of this resource center. Would you like to allow others to access its resources?" "No," Noan answered immediately. "Are you kidding me?" He and VYLYSS had risked their lives to seize the resource center. Why the hell should he share it with anyone else? Selfish? Yes, he was selfish. Because in this world, everyone is selfish. Why should he share something he had fought so hard for with many idle nobodies? If you don't look out for yourself, the heavens and earth will cast you aside. He wasn't some hero or saint who cared about others beyond those he truly loved. So, sorry, but that's just how this world works. He was that kind of person. He was a selfish bastard who had no intention of sharing his spoils with anyone. Ding. Since you have chosen not to share the resource center, this place will now be exclusively yours. Only you have the authority to enter this location. However, if another lord discovers this place, they will still have the right to launch an attack and claim it as their own. Noan frowned at the notification, thinking to himself, so that means if another lord finds this place, they have the right to attack and seize it for themselves. He felt a headache coming on. If he wanted to protect this place, he would have to divide his soldiers and heroes into two groups, one to defend his territory, the other to guard the resource center. Although he now possessed VYLYSS, rank B, Erlgan, rank D peak, Erlgug, rank D+, and Zis, rank D, that didn't mean he was truly invincible. What if all the lords banded together to attack this place? Don't even think that such a scenario wouldn't happen. Faced with such immense benefits, they would definitely work together to take him down and claim the resource center for themselves. The issue of dividing the resources could be settled later. But maybe I don't need to worry too much. He reassured himself. After all, before anyone could even reach this place, They had to make it through a horde of 5,000 zombies, including several rank E and rank D zombies. There was no way they could breach the resource center anytime soon. That meant Noan still had time to develop. Now that he had VLYSS, a rank B hero, he could focus all his resources on evolving Zis, pushing it to a higher rank. Once he had 2 rank B monsters, everything would become much easier. VLYSS would protect the territory, while Zis would guard the resource center. Why was he keeping VLYSS by his side instead of Zis? Any man would understand why. Even if he had to provide VLYSS with milk every day, at least living with a stunning beauty was far preferable to cohabiting with a giant spider, right? Noan stepped inside the resource center, sighing as he saw 3 small houses. Although it was called a center, it was nothing more than a small area with 3 shabby buildings. Without the system's notification, he wouldn't have even believed that this place was truly the resource center. Resource Center. Level 0. Description: every day, this place produces 100 units of wood, 100 units of stone, and 100 food pills. Upgrade requirement: 1,000 rank F energy crystals. Higher rank energy crystals can be used as substitutes. Noan thought for a moment and decided not to upgrade the resource center. Instead, he used all the energy crystals he had just obtained from the legendary treasure chest to level up VLYSS. After her evolution, her level had reset from level 1 to level 0, but that didn't concern him. A level 1 rank D peak and a level 0 rank B were worlds apart. The difference was as vast as the moon and the sun. Because of that, the number of energy crystals needed for VLYSS to level up was astronomical. Almost all the energy crystals he possessed were dedicated to VLYSS's progression. However, he set aside 10 rank D energy crystals to upgrade the storage function. Ding! The storage function has been successfully upgraded. It can now store additional types of resources. Noan saw that his storage, which initially had 9 slots, had expanded to 99. Each slot could stack up to 999 units of the same type of item. This meant he could store 99 types of resources, each occupying a single slot. While VLYSS was absorbing energy crystals to level up, Noan started using storage to collect resources. Ding! Resource collection is in progress. Please wait 1 hour for completion. While waiting, Noan checked the items he had received from the system rewards after completing his mission. His attention was particularly drawn to the Pioneer's Medal, which is currently stored in storage. Name: Pioneer's Medal. Rank: description: the effects of this item are activated even while stored in storage. Increases the strength of the Lord and all heroes and soldiers under their command by 20%. Reduces physical and magical damage taken by 20%. Weakens zombie-type monsters by 20% when near heroes, soldiers, or the Lord carrying this medal. Noan was stunned as he read the effects of the Pioneer's Medal. Was this really an item meant for him? That increases the strength of the Lord, heroes, and soldiers under their command by 20%. Effect alone drove the entire world insane. For low-rank lords, this ability wasn't too overwhelming. After all, 20% of 10 was only 2. However, what if a high-rank lord's strength was 100 or 1,000? The 20% increase would be exponentially more powerful than for someone with only 10 strength. Moreover, this medal didn't just increase strength. It also reduced physical and magical damage by 20% and weakened zombies by 20% when they were near the Lord or their troops. This Pioneer's Medal was nothing short of a divine artifact for high-rank lords. If news of its existence spread, it would undoubtedly trigger a massacre. Of course, Noan wasn't foolish enough to flaunt it to the world. Fortunately, thanks to the storage function, he didn't need to wear the medal on his person for its effects to activate. Now, his attention shifted to Lord points. He had 500 Lord points, just enough to upgrade his Lord rank. Ding! Would you like to spend 500 Lord points to upgrade your Lord rank? Yes. Noan agreed without hesitation. Right now, he was only rank F. If he didn't increase his Lord rank, he would still need an extremely long time to gather the necessary materials for his hero's evolutions, even with the almighty fusion talent. Ding! Your Lord rank has been successfully upgraded to Rank F+. To advance further, please spend another 500 Lord points. Ding! Your talent Almighty Fusion has gained a new function. 2 notifications appeared, filling Noan with excitement. Finally, he had upgraded his Lord rank. Now, he no longer had to worry about the overwhelming amount of materials needed to evolve his heroes or mutant soldiers. Even though he had only advanced from Rank F to Rank F+, that alone was already a massive improvement. Previously, he needed 3 Rank F skeletons to fuse into 1 Rank F+ skeleton. Now, instead of summoning Rank F skeletons, he could summon Rank F+ skeletons directly. Suppressing his excitement, Noan proceeded to check the new function added to his Almighty Fusion talent. Talent: Almighty Fusion. Rank: SSS. Description 1. You can fuse 3 soldiers of the same rank to create a higher-ranked soldier. Description 2. You can use multiple high-rank soldiers to increase the rank of a hero you have summoned. Description 3. Any soldier or hero that has undergone fusion will receive the evolution mark. Evolution mark. When soldiers or heroes receive this mark, their overall strength increases by 10%. The more units with the evolution mark, the stronger the Lord becomes. Description 4. Unlocks the clear function. You can now use leftover materials to enhance the power of fused monsters. Seeing the clear function, Noan let out a relieved sigh. He had been frustrated about the leftover materials after each fusion process. But now, that problem was completely solved. Instead of hoarding useless materials, he could convert them into power for the monsters he had already fused. Noan felt that, despite the life-threatening dangers he had just faced, his rewards were more than worth it. At the very least, he now had a Rank B hero. After finishing his resource collection, Noan glanced at VYLYSS and said, "Stay here and guard this place." "What?" VYLYSS pouted, floating in front of him, her delicate fingers gently stroking his face. "Master, are you really going to leave a beautiful girl like me in such a dangerous place?" Noan, if she were still a Rank D peak succubus, she might have a point. But now, she was probably the most terrifying existence in this entire area. What kind of monster could possibly make her feel afraid? Just keep watch for now. Tomorrow, I'll have Erlgan replace you. Although VYLYSS was dissatisfied, she still obeyed Noan's command. Seeing her expression, Noan chuckled and shook his head. He reached out and patted her head gently, his voice soft. "Thank you." VYLYSS smiled happily. At this moment, words became unnecessary. Even in silence, they understood what was in each other's hearts. VYLSS couldn't hold back. She wrapped her arms around Noan, pressing her lips softly against his. Noan didn't resist and accepted her sweet kiss. After a while, they parted. This time, VYLSS asked seriously, "Master, don't you want me to wipe out those zombies? Before, I wasn't strong enough, but now, I can easily annihilate them all." Hearing VYLSS's confident tone, Noan knew she wasn't exaggerating. She really could do it. However, he simply shook his head and replied, "No need. Let them live a little longer. If, in the future, they don't interfere with any major events, we can get rid of them then." That was right. Noan feared that even a reckless decision could trigger a butterfly effect, altering important events from their original course. Therefore, the safest approach was to leave them alone. If those zombies didn't impact the system's future events, he could harvest them later. Besides, Noan didn't believe that any of the lords in Area 27 could wipe out those zombies. Suddenly, Noan remembered a major problem. How was he supposed to get back to his territory? Earlier, VYLSS had flown him here, but now that she was staying behind, who would take him back? Noan felt a headache coming on. "Master!" VYLSS seemed to sense his thoughts and immediately spoke up. "Don't worry, I can send you back in an instant." Noan looked at her in confusion. VYLSS didn't explain. Instead, she simply placed her hand on his shoulder, and suddenly, A surge of energy wrapped around his body. What happened next? Noan wasn't sure. For a brief moment, he saw the space around him twist and distort as if reality itself were a piece of fabric being bent and stretched. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything snapped back to normal. Noan found himself standing inside his territory. Crit, crit. Zis, who had been clinging to the ceiling, was so startled by Noan's sudden appearance that she almost fell to the ground. AAA. Damn it. That scared the hell out of me. Zis' second consciousness cursed internally. What the hell? How did he suddenly appear inside the room? Wait a minute. That was space magic. No way. There's no way a useless human like him can use space magic. Her gaze quickly shifted. Why is that filthy succubus even stronger now? Not just twice as strong. Her rank actually increased to rank B. What the hell is happening? Zis' second consciousness was so shocked that she mentally gaped. Not that she had a real mouth to drop open anymore. But this only emphasized how truly stunned she was. In just one day, a mere rank D peak succubus took a giant leap and became a rank B existence. And more than that, Zis had seen something else. Wait a minute. Why does she have 3 different energy sources inside her body? And more importantly, why aren't they repelling or attacking each other? Instead, they seem to be coexisting and even supporting one another. Zis felt as if she had just discovered an entirely new continent. This must have been what Columbus felt when he stumbled upon America. She had to know that having 3 different energies within a single body was completely unheard of. Even more shocking was the nature of these energies. 2 of them were opposites. The white energy radiated holiness, divinity, purity, and righteousness. The black energy was the complete opposite, filled with negativity, darkness, and corruption. And then, there was the pink energy, neither holy nor corrupt. It brimmed with love and desire, a force entirely separate from the other 2. Usually, just putting these energies near each other would cause a violent clash, an uncontrollable explosion. Yet right now, they existed inside VYLYSS's body in perfect balance. Not only that, but they were actively supporting each other, making her even more powerful. But the most unbelievable part? VYLYSS had just used space magic. Zis remembered her past life. At that time, she had reached a nearly supreme level in this world. Yet, she had many regrets, especially regarding spatial magic. She could learn but not use it because she lacked the innate talent for spatial magic. If she had been able to wield spatial magic, she could have wiped out all her enemies in that battle and ascended to the highest level of this world. But unfortunately, she could not use that kind of magic, and because of that, she was killed. When she woke up, she found herself inhabiting the body of a spider. However, the most crucial thing was VYLYSS now possessed something that Zis had once yearned for and never obtained. How strange! Zis thought to herself, could it be that the filthy succubus girl has some other hidden mystery to her identity? She recalled that even before VYLYSS had evolved to rank B, she had already been able to use infernal chains, piercing through the space around her with those chains. That proved that VYLYSS's spatial talent had not just recently appeared. She had possessed it for a long time. TSK. Zis clicked her tongue inwardly. A succubus is still a succubus. So what if she has spatial talent? She still can't fully harness its potential. Even after evolving to rank B, she can only use it for movement. She has no idea how to optimize her spatial abilities to turn them into a power to strike fear into others. I've already decided. Someday, when I gain enough power to break that brat's contract, I will make him my slave. Since he possesses the talent for evolution, I'll just sever all his limbs and lock him in the basement. Whenever I need to use him, I'll have him help me evolve, and then I'll throw him back into the basement. Noan, don't blame me for being cruel. It's because you dare to stain my eyes. Noan suddenly shuddered, feeling a chill of fear as if someone wanted to kill him. How strange. Noan thought to himself, could it be that someone is plotting to kill me? Although he had no idea who it might be, he knew he had to stay cautious. The lesson that the mutant hunter had taught him was still fresh in his mind. Noan shook his head, looked at VYLYSS, and asked, "Can you leave this place using teleportation?" He didn't care why a succubus like VYLYSS could use spatial magic. The stronger she was, the safer he would be. VYLYSS tilted her head, thought momentarily, then said, "I'll try it." As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished. But a few seconds later, she reappeared, her face showing clear frustration. "Master, I can't leave this place," VYLYSS pouted. "Every time I try to teleport out of this area, I just end up right next to that invisible wall from before." Noan nodded in response, not feeling the slightest bit disappointed. After all, this was the answer he had expected. He had only wanted to test it out for himself. It seemed that the system's rules could not be broken. "All right, go back to the resource storage center and stand guard there," Noan sighed and said. He paid no attention to VYLYSS's sulking expression. In truth, today he just wanted to rest. That morning, he had been pushed to the brink by the mutant hunter. At noon, he had been drained by VYLYSS. Now, he had barely any strength left. He only wanted to sleep. Seeing VYLYSS leave, Zis immediately jumped onto Noan's shoulder, swinging her legs back and forth, her eyes brimming with joy as she looked at him. "All right, I just want to sleep for a bit," Noan sighed, speaking as he gently stroked her head with his finger. "Do you want to sleep with me?" Crit, 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 triple A. "No." The second, Zis screamed internally. "I don't want to sleep next to this filthy, perverted man. He's already slept with a succubus. So disgusting. Oh, I don't want to be tainted." No matter how much the second Zis cried, she couldn't resist because she had no control over this body. In the end, Zis still crawled under the blanket, resting on Noan's chest, sleeping peacefully. After all, Noan's territory was well guarded by numerous Rank E skeletons. In a region filled with only Rank F and E lords, Noan's soldiers were practically invincible. If a stronger hero were to appear, the silk threads that Zis had spread around the area would immediately alert both her and Noan. While Noan was sleeping soundly, Caleb was feeling an unbearable headache. In front of him, Adrian bowed, saying, "Boss, I'm telling the truth. I saw a huge number of zombies." Caleb rubbed his chin, contemplating for a long moment before asking, "Did they attack you?" "No." Adrian nodded and said, "Maybe it's because I was standing far away, so they neither saw nor heard me. However, the sheer number of them was overwhelming, so many that it terrified me." Caleb found this even more puzzling, yet he couldn't find any reason to believe that Adrian was lying to him. How strange. Caleb furrowed his brows. Why didn't I see that area before? Indeed, Caleb and his subordinates had been the first to arrive in this region and had already explored nearly all of Area 27. Through this exploration, they discovered the forest brimming with food and small animals. However, the truly strange thing was that Caleb had confirmed that the forest ended at an invisible wall back then. Even though he and his people could see another forest in the distance, they hadn't spotted a single zombie. Naturally, Caleb and his group had investigated every corner, making it clear that this was nothing more than a massive cage. The most dangerous area was the gloomy forest. Yet now, Adrian claimed that a massive horde of zombies existed beyond the food-rich forest. This made Caleb deeply suspicious. "Let's go." Caleb didn't believe it. He stood up, furrowing his brows, and said, "I want to see this horde of zombies for myself." Hearing this, Adrian nodded and immediately led Caleb to the location. By the time they arrived, the night was approaching. However, Caleb's face was even darker than the sky. Seeing the swarm of zombies moving like a colony of ants, Caleb shuddered, goosebumps rising all over his skin. The stench of rotting corpses filled the entire area, blanketing it in an overwhelming, nightmarish atmosphere. Combined with the encroaching darkness of the evening, the eerie and chilling surroundings made Caleb want nothing more than to leave this place as quickly as possible. "Boss, what should we do?" Adrian finally spoke up. Caleb swallowed hard, but the putrid smell from the zombies nearly made him vomit. "They're not moving?" Caleb suddenly noticed something odd and immediately asked. That's right," Adrian replied. "They seem frozen in place, not moving, not making a sound." Caleb frowned deeply, sensing something extremely strange. A sudden thought struck him, and he immediately said, "It seems like they're waiting for something. Could it be?" He considered a highly likely possibility that these zombies were related to an event that would unfold in the future. Even if it wasn't immediate, Caleb was certain that neither he nor any of the lords in this area could withstand the full force of this zombie horde when the time came. It was terrifying to think about. Among the zombies before him, there were numerous lickers and even tanker zombies of rank D and hunter zombies of rank D+. Even though Caleb was the strongest lord in this region, he only had one rank D+ hero and one rank D hero under his command. The only fortunate thing was that the zombies seemed to remain frozen, unable to attack the lords in the area just yet. Taking a deep breath, Caleb said to Adrian, "Let's head back." Adrian quickly nodded. This place was horrifying. He no longer wanted to stay here. Caleb didn't return to the wooden house, but instead returned to his territory. At this moment, he had lost his usual composure, replaced by fear and anxiety. Hawk and Rado had vanished, the two individuals with immense combat power. Perhaps they were already dead. Losing two of his greatest allies, Caleb had now discovered an enormous zombie horde, ready to attack the lords at any moment. However, he couldn't run. An invisible wall enclosed this place. No one could leave, and no one could enter. Resist? Could he even resist? A swarm of zombies and countless lickers, tankers, and hunters. Forget about 100 lords. Even if there were over 1,000 lords in this place, they would still struggle to withstand that monstrous horde. Caleb let out a long sigh, muttering, "Could it all end here?" 3 days later, VYLWSS had not returned to the resource storage center because she claimed that she could now use spatial magic after advancing to rank B. She could traverse it in seconds despite the distance being over 100 miles. Moreover, she had set up a special spatial magic around the area. Anyone approaching would become trapped in a maze-like space. Noan, of course, had nothing to say about it. He could only let VYLWSS stay by his side. However, he hadn't paid much attention to VYLWSS's body over the past 3 days. Instead, he had dedicated himself to rigorous training. Naturally, his sparring partner was VYLWSS. Rather than training within his territory, he went to the area near the resource storage center. Since no one could enter that place, and it was vast and open, it was an ideal battleground. After 3 days, Noan realized that while he possessed many abilities, none were exceptionally strong or outstanding. The only thing he had was a physical strength that was 8 times greater than that of an average person. But even that wasn't enough. Noan knew that his enemies weren't just other lords, but also terrifying monsters. The mutant hunter he had faced before was merely the prelude to a greater challenge. According to the system's explanation, Mutant Hunter had been at rank D peak, on par with VYLWSS in rank, yet it had already reached level 3, whereas VYLWSS had only been at level 1 at the time. When ranks were equal, the deciding factors became species and level. VYLWSS, despite being a mutant, was still a succubus, a race specialized in magic. Meanwhile, the mutant hunter possessed immense strength, unmatched speed, and an instinct for combat that far surpassed hers. A 1-level difference might seem insignificant, but when applied to VYLWSS and the mutant hunter, it was like the gap between the moon and the sun. That was why VYLWSS's defeat had been completely expected. Now, Noan was training relentlessly to strengthen his combat abilities alongside the Abyss Cube. He believed that one day, he would have to fight alone when no monsters or heroes were left by his side. Resting beneath a tree, Noan browsed through the remaining items in his storage. He still had a territory blueprint, a random blueprint, an NPC summoning card, and a one-time upgrade for the resource storage center. However, he had yet to use any of these. The territory blueprint would alter the structure of his domain. If he used it now, Other lords would notice the changes, which could bring him even more trouble. The random blueprint was also something he didn't want to use just yet. His territory was overcrowded, and he had no space to accommodate another structure. Finally, there was the one-time upgrade for the resource storage center, which he also chose not to use. For now, he could upgrade the resource storage center with energy crystals. However, as its level increased, the resources required for further upgrades would increase exponentially. Noan wanted to wait until the resource storage center reached level 4 or 5 before using the free upgrade card, ensuring he got the maximum benefit. His mind drifted back to the dream before, when he had seen that woman. Even though he didn't know who she was or her identity, he was certain of one thing. She had been the one who saved him. Noan didn't want to dwell on it too much. Right now, he was still too weak. If he wanted to rescue her, he would need to become something terrifying, at least level 7 or higher. Open personal status screen. When Noan gave the command, a translucent status screen appeared. Ding! Upgrade successful. You have obtained Resource Storage Center Level 1. Noan watched as the status screen displayed the successful upgrade. Since receiving 500 Lord points, he had advanced to Lord Rank F+, meaning the skeletons he summoned were now also Rank F+. Thanks to this, he had successfully evolved Zis to Rank D+. Of course, with the remaining skeletons, he could use them as an energy source to further strengthen VYLYSS and Zis. At that moment, VYLYSS suddenly disappeared, but a second later, she reappeared, holding a small pouch in her hands. Upon closer inspection, the pouch was woven from Zis silk, making it incredibly durable. Master, VYLYSS said cheerfully as she sat beside Noan, smiling. Erlgug and Erlgan have gathered enough energy crystals for you. Noan took the pouch without even checking its contents. Instead, he immediately placed all the energy crystals inside his storage. At that moment, a slot in the storage displayed the symbol of a small gray stone, accompanied by the number plus 999. Another adjacent slot showed a similar stone, with the number plus 70 beside it. Noan promptly opened the status menu and initiated the upgrade for the resource storage center. Ding! Do you wish to consume 1,000 Rank F energy crystals to upgrade the resource storage center? Confirm. Ding! Upgrade successful. You have obtained Resource Storage Center Level 1. Noan exhaled softly, feeling a sense of accomplishment. With the center now upgraded, his storage capabilities and energy collection efficiency would improve significantly, bringing him one step closer to strengthening his domain. The Resource Center Level 1. Description: each day, this facility produces 200 units of wood, 200 units of stone, 200 food pills, and 50 Rank F energy crystals. Upgrade requirement: 1,000 Rank E energy crystals. Higher-ranked energy crystals can be used as substitutes. Seeing that the Resource Center could now generate Rank F energy crystals, Noan felt joy. Though the amount was small, it was still a reason to be pleased. In the distance, the Resource Storage Center had begun to change. A 2-meter-high wooden wall replaced the outer fence. The 3 simple wooden huts inside had transformed into a corridor connecting 4 houses together. Its size had expanded from 400 square meters to 1,000 square meters. Just as Noan was about to step inside and inspect the Resource Storage Center, VYLYSS spoke up. Master, someone is looking for you. It appears to be Caleb. Because VYLYSS could use spatial magic, her protective spells surrounded Noan's territory. When anyone approached his domain, VYLYSS could instantly detect and identify their presence. Noan nodded, then immediately headed back to his territory with VYLYSS. The furniture had become far more refined inside his home, thanks to Zis' expert weaving and carving abilities. It could be said that Zis was like a master craftsman, using its razor-sharp silk threads for carving and weaving. With them, it even created a full sofa set and woven new clothing for Noan. The only issue was that all these clothes were pure white and no other colors. Noan sat on the large sofa, and as soon as he did, Zis crawled onto his shoulder, happily rubbing its small head against his face. He responded by stroking its head gently with his finger. The second Zis was drowning in despair. She wanted to curse at him, but was powerless to do so. She had thought that Noan would assign her some dangerous, highly classified mission or have her participate in epic battles. In the end, all she could do was work as a craftsman. Not only that, but other Zis enjoyed it, spending entire days in the forest searching for suitable materials, weaving fabric, and crafting furniture. Damn it, I am the weaving heavenly spider, not some mere craftsman. Hey. Inside, the second Zis screamed in frustration, but in the end, she could only suffer in silence because no one could hear her. However, the only consolation for her was Noan hadn't abandoned her. He had evolved her to rank D+ in an incredibly short time. In the past, reaching this rank had taken her more than 200 years, enduring countless agonizing trials and life-threatening situations. At times, she had even felt that she was teetering on the edge of death. But now, in just a few short days, she had already reached rank D+, making everything she had once suffered feel utterly pointless. But the second Zis suddenly glanced at the other Zis, who was happily weaving a new piece of fabric. A thought crept into her mind. Why does weaving actually seem kind of fun? Noan, of course, had no idea what Zis was thinking. Seeing Zis happily weaving fabric, he assumed that this must be what it loved the most. Looking at Zis at this moment, he couldn't associate it with the name Assassin Spider that the system had displayed. Noan smiled gently, patted Zis' head, and signaled VOYSS to hide. He didn't let her open the door. Instead, he had Skeleton Shielder do it. Standing outside was Caleb, his eyes shadowed like a panda's, his expression filled with worry and exhaustion. He was no longer as composed as before. Beside him stood a creature resembling a block of stone, but shaped like a human. For some reason, an uneasy feeling stirred in Caleb's heart. It should be known that he was an E+ rank lord, and the hero accompanying him was D+ rank. In this region, it wouldn't be wrong to say that he was practically the king, so long as Noan did not appear or challenge him for the throne. Of course, Caleb had no idea how powerful Noan truly was. He only felt a vague sense of anxiety about coming here. Shaking his head, Caleb tried to dismiss that emotion. He refused to believe that a mere F-rank lord like Noan could pose any threat to his safety, especially when he brought his D+ rank hero along. Crit! The wooden door creaked open, and the sight inside startled Caleb. The one who opened the door was not Noan, but a skeleton, or more precisely, a skeleton monster. However, this skeleton was different from ordinary ones. It wore light armor, and in its hand, it held a massive shield crafted from the bones of some unknown beast. Its eye sockets burned with two blue flames, and Caleb could even sense the danger emanating from its gaze. Caleb instinctively stepped back as his intuition warned him that the creature before him posed a threat to his life. The golem standing behind him immediately moved forward, shielding him as if to protect him. However, the skeleton shielder seemed indifferent to Caleb's reaction. It simply stepped aside and extended a hand, gesturing for Caleb to enter. Caleb found the scene both perplexing and unsettling. He couldn't believe that a skeleton existed in this place, which could make him feel fear. It should be known that most skeletons were only rank F, with the occasional mutated ones reaching rank F+. Yet, never before had Caleb heard of a skeleton that could wear armor, wield a shield, and, most strikingly, exude such a terrifying aura. This was the first time he had ever experienced such a feeling. Could this skeleton be a mutant that has surpassed rank F+ and reached rank E? Caleb thought, but he quickly shook his head, dismissing the idea as soon as it surfaced. Neither the Academy nor the online information mentioned a skeleton surpassing rank F+. Perhaps Noan has equipped his skeleton with additional gear, but how could he possibly obtain such equipment in this desolate place? Suddenly, a new possibility crossed Caleb's mind. Aside from bringing food and medicine to this territory, Noan might also have other supplies. At that moment, a flicker of ruthlessness appeared in Caleb's eyes, but he swiftly concealed it. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, the golem following closely behind. As he passed through the main entrance, he took in the sight of Noan's domain. It remained an essential territory, yet the meticulously maintained garden gave him an unexpected sense of comfort. It starkly contrasted his own land, where wild grass ran rampant and nameless. Useless plants grew unchecked. Thud! Suddenly, a loud noise echoed, like something weighty had just fallen. Caleb turned his head and saw that the skeleton shielder had just shoved his golem backward, sending it crashing. That's right, he wasn't seeing things. The skeleton shielder had just knocked down his D+ rank golem. Caleb felt like the world had gone mad. His golem wasn't a weak F or E rank, but a solid D+ rank. And yet, it had been knocked down by an ordinary skeleton. Furious, Caleb shouted, "Get up! What the hell are you doing?" His stone golem slowly rose to its feet, but before it could react, the skeleton shielder swung its massive shield and slammed it straight into the golem's head. Bam! A deafening impact rang out. Small stone fragments broke off the golem's head and crumbled to the ground. Caleb was shocked by the sight. He instinctively moved, wanting to do something, but an icy sensation crawled over his body before he could take a step. His instinct screamed at him. If he moved, he would die. Caleb immediately froze. He felt something cold pressing against his neck, as if a blade of metal had just touched his skin. He dare not move. Slowly, he shifted his gaze to the right. Standing beside him was another skeleton. Unlike the first one, this one wielded a sword, and that sword was now resting against his throat. If he so much as twitched, the razor-sharp blade would slice through his neck in an instant. "You?" Caleb stammered, his voice trembling. "What the hell are you doing?" He could no longer maintain his composure. Panic flooded his mind. For the past 3 days, he hadn't had a single good night's sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he dreamed of endless hordes of zombies swarming him like an army of ants. Caleb had always been a cautious man. That trait made his thoughts far more intricate and his worries far more significant than most people. Sometimes, ignorance indeed was a kind of bliss. "Leave your hero outside. You may enter." Noan's voice rang out from inside the house. Caleb gritted his teeth. He was deeply unsettled. His hero had just been knocked down by the skeleton shielder, and now he was being restrained by a skeleton wielding a sword. If he obeyed Noan's command, there was a chance he wouldn't make it out alive, especially after everything he had done to Noan. As Caleb hesitated, the skeleton swordsman pressed its blade slightly deeper, just enough to slice a small cut on his neck, causing fresh blood to trickle down. A shiver ran down Caleb's spine. Panicked, he shouted, "I understand. Stop! Stop!" He exhaled in relief when he felt the blade ease back slightly. "You wait outside." Caleb immediately ordered his stone golem. Naturally, the golem possessed little intelligence and could only follow commands. Upon receiving Caleb's order, it stood up and remained motionless like an ordinary rock. "Is that enough for you now?" Caleb frowned, his voice laced with irritation. Noan did not reply, but the skeleton swordsman lowered its blade and gestured for Caleb to enter. Caleb rubbed his neck. The cut still bled, still stung, but he dared not complain or show his anger. Everything he had witnessed today had completely overturned his understanding of the world. Taking a deep breath, Caleb glared at the skeleton swordsman. However, like the stone golem, it remained frozen in place. He swallowed hard, attempting to steady himself, then stepped inside. As he pushed open the door, he first saw Noan, arms crossed over his chest, leaning back comfortably on a plush white sofa. Caleb was genuinely surprised. He hadn't expected to see such a lavishly furnished room, pure white and exuding luxury, in this place. However, he had more pressing matters and quickly ignored his curiosity. He moved toward the seat across from Noan, about to sit down, but Noan's voice cut through the air. "Did I give you permission to sit?" Caleb stiffened, his expression darkening with anger as he glared at Noan. "What do you mean by that?" Noan let out a mocking chuckle. Of course, he already knew why Caleb had come looking for him. He had his mutant skeletons welcome Caleb precisely to send a warning, to make it clear that he was not the weak little lamb Caleb had thought him to be. His sharp gaze pierced into Caleb like twin blades as he spoke, his voice ice-cold. You came here to beg me for something. Then act like someone who's begging. Don't stand before me with that arrogant attitude. Noan's words were like knives piercing through Caleb's pride. His face flushed red with fury, and his fists clenched tightly. This was a mockery, blatant, undisguised contempt. Angry, Noan tilted his head slightly, a derisive smile playing on his lips. Why was he taking such a risk? Because he already knew exactly what Caleb had. Thanks to Z's surveillance, Noan had a precise understanding of the number of soldiers and heroes Caleb possessed. He even knew their exact ranks. Ziz had also attached tracking silk to Caleb's heroes. If Caleb made any suspicious move, Noan could kill him instantly. Just because Caleb was a level 3 lord didn't mean Noan couldn't take him down. After all, Caleb was only an E+ rank lord. If Noan used his full strength, eliminating him would be effortless. Although his mutant skeletons were only ranked D, level 1, the surplus skeletons from the past 3 days had become a source of reinforcement for them. That was why the skeleton shielder had easily knocked down a rank D+, level 3 stone golem. In other words, the power of his rank D mutant skeletons had now surpassed that of the stone golem. Beyond that, he still had Zis. And more importantly, he still had VYLYSS and Erlgan. His two most formidable forces had yet to reveal themselves. If they did, the battle between him and Caleb would be a one-sided slaughter. Another reason for Noan's confidence was that he knew precisely why Caleb had come to him. Yet despite that, Caleb still carried himself with arrogance, issuing commands rather than humbly requesting aid. Caleb finally understood his place as he looked at Noan's mocking and disdainful expression. When he saw the skeleton shielder easily knock down his stone golem, Caleb knew that Noan was anything but simple. Taking a deep breath, Caleb slowly unclenched his fists before speaking. I came here to propose a collaboration. Not interested. You can leave. Noan yawned lazily, then waved his hand dismissively, signaling him to go. Caleb frowned, his anger flaring up, but he forced himself to suppress it. Slowly, he lowered his head and softened his tone. Please, I need your help. Ha-ha! Noan suddenly chuckled. Caleb, you seem to be misunderstanding something. I'm just an F rank lord. How could I possibly be qualified to collaborate with you? Besides, do you really think that after everything you've done, I would accept working with you? You haven't even asked what we'd be collaborating on. Why are you rejecting me so quickly? Caleb snapped, unable to hide his frustration. Not interested, Noan waved him off again. Nor do I care. If you want a partnership, go seek out the higher-ranked lords. I can't work with you. Caleb gritted his teeth, about to retort you. But suddenly, he realized that he couldn't utter another word. A thin strand of silk had wrapped itself around his neck. The thread slowly tightened, as if warning him that if he dared to say one more word, his head would be severed from his body. Noan rested his head on one hand, his expression lazy as he spoke. Caleb, have you still not realized the difference between you and me? Or do you still believe that you're the boss of this region, free to do as you please? Oh, I just thought of a rather fitting scenario. Caleb, the so-called boss of this region, ventured into the dark forest in search of energy crystals. But unexpectedly, he was ambushed by a swarm of zombies. Even his stone golem couldn't withstand them, and as a result, Caleb was torn apart and killed by the undead. Caleb shuddered at Noan's words. He understood precisely what Noan was implying. Noan was telling him, indirectly, that he had both the power to kill him and the ability to fabricate a perfect excuse for his death. And no one would even bother investigating it, because all humans were the same in the end. Greedy, cold sweat dripped down Caleb's forehead. Never before had he felt death so close. Noan, this is my first time visiting your home. Shouldn't I have brought a gift? Noan said with a playful smile. Caleb jolted at the remark. Taking a deep breath, he quickly responded, It was all too rushed this time. Next time, I will bring a gift. Good. Then you may leave. Noan waved his hand dismissively. The delicate thread constricting Caleb's neck loosened. Relieved, he wasted no time and bolted out of the house, not daring to look back. Of course, Noan didn't stop him, allowing Caleb to flee with his stone golem. Master! VYLYSS stepped out from the shadows at that moment, her gaze filled with curiosity. We're much stronger than him. Why not take this opportunity to kill him? Noan gently shook his head. Killing him would be too easy, but dealing with the aftermath would be troublesome. VYLYSS, you saw that massive zombie horde, didn't you? We still don't know what the next event will be. It's best to limit unnecessary killing for now. Even if VYLYSS hadn't mentioned it, Noan had already planned to eliminate the other lords here. To evolve his lord rank, he needed more lord points. And where did lord points come from? By killing other lords, collecting their lord crystals, and converting them into points. Right now, he was only an F+ rank lord. More than anyone, he desired to accumulate enough points to evolve further. However, things couldn't be rushed or approached with a one-dimensional mindset. What if the next event requires forming a team? If I'm the only one left alive, wouldn't I fail before the event even begins? Don't think I'm overanalyzing this. After seeing that zombie horde, I'm confident that my judgment isn't far off, even if not entirely accurate. Besides, this place needs a manager, someone to act as a representative when any issues arise. And without a doubt, Caleb is the perfect candidate for that role. I have no interest in getting involved in such troublesome matters. That's why I let him live. VYLYSS tilted her head slightly before stepping closer to Noan. Then she sat on his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. Master, what did you mean when you told him to bring a gift? Noan smiled, his finger lightly tapping the high, delicate bridge of VYLYSS's nose. If he wants to beg for my help, he must bring something of value. VYLYSS was a bit surprised. She chuckled and asked, will he understand? Of course. Noan explained. He's brilliant and cautious. He'll definitely understand what I meant. Is he smarter than you, Master? Hearing her question, Noan nodded slightly. That's right. I'm not an all-knowing being. It's only natural that there are people smarter than me. It's just, I'm stronger than him. And that's why I hold the upper hand. VYLYSS pouted in dissatisfaction. No way. How could he possibly be smarter than you? Noan simply shook his head and chuckled, offering no further explanation. He knew exactly where he stood, and he was well aware of his own level of intelligence. Was he brilliant? No. Was Caleb intelligent? Without a doubt. Fortunately, Caleb was only an E+ rank lord. Otherwise, he would be a perilous existence. The mere fact that Caleb had suppressed his rage despite Noan's blatant mockery was enough to prove how dangerous he was. The most dangerous people weren't those who flaunted their wealth or strength, but those who remained silent. We never truly know how powerful or resourceful they are until we start digging into them. VYLYSS, still sulking, rested her head against Noan's chest. She softly asked, Master, then why did he come to see you? Noan stroked her silky hair, inhaling the soothing scent on her body. He's afraid. Afraid? VYLYSS looked puzzled. Afraid of what? Noan smirked. Afraid of dying. Shown. Wild grass covered the ground outside Caleb's territory, and nameless, useless trees grew densely together. The atmosphere in the territory was dim and eerie, as towering trees and thick vines blocked out most of the light, making the place resemble a miniature version of the dark forest. Inside the house, the sharp sound of something shattering rang out. In the otherwise silent space, the noise was even more piercing. Damn it! Caleb roared with all his might, his voice filled with fury and madness. Fortunately, each lord's territory was more than 100 meters apart, so no one could hear him. His scream carried nothing but rage and insanity. Never before had he felt fear or bowed his head to anyone. Even if he were to submit, it would only be to those stronger than him, those of a much higher rank. Even if a rank D lord stood before Caleb, he wouldn't necessarily lower his head. Yet today, a mere rank F lord had humiliated him, forcing him to bow and unable to fight back. In a rage, Caleb began destroying the furniture in his house. He and his stone golem had handcrafted the furniture. Though crude and unsightly, at the very least, it was functional. After all, when they arrived in this place, all lords had to start from scratch. No furniture or tools to aid them in daily life. And yet, in his fury, Caleb shattered everything he had painstakingly built with his own hands. For the first time since becoming a lord, he was consumed by such uncontrollable rage. "Damn it!" Caleb bellowed again. After venting his anger, he collapsed onto the ground, his face exhausted. At last, he began to calm down. Wiping the sweat from his forehead with his sleeve, he recalled everything he had witnessed that day. Ultimately, he had no choice but to accept it as the truth. No matter how unbelievable those things were, he had to believe them, because he had seen them with his own eyes. High-rank skeletons, wielding enough power to defeat his rank D+ stone golem. And beyond that, Noan possessed some kind of monstrous entity, something so powerful that it could easily kill him. At this moment, Caleb realized how foolish he had been to provoke Noan, and he realized just how overconfident he had become, daring to prance around in front of Noan, believing himself to be the strongest. Sitting on the ground in despair, Caleb felt like a complete fool, while this entire region seemed like a massive circus. And who was the audience? None other than Noan. "Caleb," a voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Click! Before Caleb could respond, the door creaked open. A young woman with black hair stepped inside, her face filled with worry and a hint of fear. "Oh my God, what happened here? Why are you smashing everything?" She was startled at the sight of the wreckage in the room, her expression even more fearful. Seeing her, Caleb's eyes softened slightly. "Anna." Yes, it was Anna. Her background was complicated, but to Caleb, one thing was certain: she was the woman he loved. "Don't worry, I've calmed down," Caleb said faintly. Anna hesitantly stepped further into the room, her gaze filled with concern as she looked at him. "I'm sorry. Did I come a bad time?" No, don't say that." Caleb quickly stood up and walked to her, taking her hands in his. "You can come here anytime." Anna's face turned red, and she gently nodded. But first, could you let go of my hands?" Sorry." Caleb realized he had been too impulsive and quickly let go. I lost control for a moment. Did something happen?" Hearing Anna's question, Caleb looked at her, then shook his head. "Nothing. Just a few troubles, that's all. You don't want me to worry, so you're choosing to hide it from me?" Anna said, her face clearly showing her concern. "Doing this will only make me worry even more." Caleb looked at Anna, guilt flickering across his expression. "I'm sorry, Anna. Your agreeing to be my spy is already the greatest help. I don't want you to have to worry about anything else." "Caleb." Anna's gentle voice filled the space as she reached out and lightly held Caleb's hand. "We've come this far together. What could there be that you can't share with me?" Caleb lifted his head to look at her before letting out a long sigh and nodding slightly. "All right, I am in big trouble." He immediately recounted everything that had happened today at Noan's territory. After listening, Anna was so shocked that she couldn't help but exclaim, "Caleb, are you serious?" Caleb nodded. "Yes. At first, I was just like you. I couldn't believe it either. But in the end, I had no choice but to accept it as the truth." Anna furrowed her brows. Could it be that Noan is a rank D lord? Her reasoning was simple. According to Caleb's account, Noan skeletons were strong enough to defeat a stone golem. That suggested that Noan could be a rank D lord, or even higher. Impossible. Caleb immediately rejected the idea. This region is only inhabited by rank F and E lords, with the highest being E+. How could a rank D lord appear here? There was no way he could believe that. The system wouldn't allow such a massive oversight. Besides, everything Noan had shown before indicated he was merely a rank F lord. If he were a rank D lord, why would he have endured so much humiliation and scorn from others? Wait, there's another possibility, Caleb suddenly realized, his voice sharpening. Even though he's a rank F lord, maybe his innate talent is special. Or Maybe he managed to purchase monster card from outside and brought them into this region. That thought wasn't entirely unreasonable. There had been cases before where lords with low ranks possessed exceptionally rare and powerful talents. Some even had unique abilities that strengthened their monsters beyond normal limits. No way. Caleb shook his head again, dismissing the idea. No matter how strong a talent is, it can enhance a rank F monster to the point where it can defeat a rank D plus level 3 monster. He let out a weary sigh. Once again, everything led to a dead end. He simply couldn't understand how Noan had obtained such powerful monsters. Caleb, Anna suddenly spoke up. Why did you go to meet Noan? Did something happen? Caleb didn't hide anything from her. With another sigh, he said, Do you remember the zombie horde I told you about before? Anna nodded, staying silent, waiting for Caleb to continue. Caleb continued, The zombie horde is growing larger. Previously, their numbers were around 5,000, but now they have risen to nearly 6,000. If this continues, their numbers will reach an unimaginable level. If they attack this region, I fear no one will survive. But the number of lords in this area has also increased significantly. Over 200 people. Are you saying we still can't win? Anna asked, confused. Caleb shook his head. He knew that Anna didn't fully understand the sheer horror of the zombies. But he did. He knew just how terrifying they could be. Forget about their numbers or the existence of rank E and D zombies. Just the fact that they carried the zombie virus was enough to illustrate their true horror. If a lord commanded troops made up of skeletons or golems, then perhaps they wouldn't need to worry about this issue. But imagine what would happen if a hero got even the smallest wound, just a scratch. That alone would be enough to turn them into a zombie. And once they became zombies, they would transform into tireless, fearless killing machines. Even with so many lords, they're all just rank E and F. How could they possibly resist an army like that? Caleb said, exhaustion in his voice. Then why did you seek out Noan? Anna asked. Even if he is a rank D lord, against a horde of that size, he wouldn't be able to do anything either. Caleb shook his head. I don't need him to fight. I need his ability to bring food from outside into this region. You mean? Anna still didn't fully grasp Caleb's intent. It's simple, Caleb explained. If he can bring food from outside, he might also be able to bring in other things. If he can bring in monster cards, even just rank E1s, it could be the key to overturning this battle that we're certain to lose. But Caleb didn't finish his sentence. Instead, he let out a sigh. Anna's expression shifted slightly, her eyes flickering with an odd emotion. Caleb, didn't he say you had to bring him a gift when you meet him again? Caleb frowned, puzzled. That's right. Why? Caleb, don't you understand what he meant? Anna suddenly smiled. Her smile was strange, but Caleb didn't overthink it. After all, Anna had been with him for a long time. She was someone he trusted completely, so he never doubted her. Anna continued, what Noan meant was, you need to bring something that interests him in exchange for that secret. Anna's words were like a lighthouse, illuminating the path for a man lost in a vast sea. Just like Caleb. You're right. Why didn't I realize that? Caleb suddenly spoke, but then his brows furrowed. But everything we have, he already has. And even what we don't have, he still possesses. He wasn't wrong. Everyone in this place started on equal footing, and no one could receive external aid. However, while they struggled with food shortages, Noan somehow brought food capsules from outside. On top of that, Noan had high-rank monsters strong enough to defeat Caleb's stone golem. Because of this, Caleb had no idea what he could offer in exchange. At that moment, Anna's eyes suddenly flickered with a strange pink light. It was faint, barely noticeable, and vanished within an instant. Anna smiled. Caleb, don't you already have 2 things? If you use them to trade, I'm sure it will work. Hearing her words, Caleb immediately thought of 2 items he had obtained while exploring the region. At the time, he had discovered a place resembling an ancient tomb and found a small chest inside. Within the chest were a blueprint and a small pouch containing 3 gemstones, each resembling dried drops of blood. However, what troubled him was that he had no idea what those 3 gemstones did, nor did he understand the function of the architectural blueprint in his possession. Because of this, he wasn't sure whether these two items were valuable enough to exchange for Noan's secret. Caleb, Anna spoke again. Try it. If it doesn't work, I can help you find something else to trade. Caleb nodded slightly at her words, but deep down, he wasn't convinced it would succeed. The next morning, Noan did not leave his territory today because he knew someone would come to see him. However, he was not particularly concerned about that matter. His attention was focused on something else. Earlier today, after summoning and fusing new troops, he had successfully evolved Zis to rank D peak. However, he encountered a new problem. He could not further evolve Zis to rank C. In front of him, a system notification appeared, explaining the issue. The rank of the heroes/monsters you possess cannot exceed rank D. Please increase your Lord rank to D to own rank C heroes/monsters. Seeing this, Noan frowned. His thoughts immediately turned to SSS, who was already a rank B hero. The system seemed to have anticipated his thoughts, and another notification soon followed. SSS has used Rainbow Crystal, an item that allows heroes to break through rank limitations without being restricted by the system. Noan let out a sigh. Whether he liked it or not, he had to accept this reality. Name known, Lord rank, F+, 12/500. Level 1. Own structures, Resource Storage Center, Level 1. Talent, Almighty Fusion. Heroes, Abyss Cube, D, VYYSSB, Zis, D peak. Troops, Skeleton, F+. Mutated troops, Skeleton Hunter, D, Skeleton Swordsman, D, Skeleton Shielder, D, Urlgan, D peak. Urlgug, D+. Noan looked at the information panel displaying his mutant skeletons and sighed again. Unlike heroes, soldiers could not evolve. They could only be fused. More precisely, unless he could create another mutant skeleton identical to the ones he already had, his almighty fusion talent would be useless in strengthening them further. Right now, the only thing he could do was use the leftover materials to enhance the strength of his current monsters. At that moment, SSS suddenly appeared behind him, floating midair. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing her soft curves against the back of his head. Master! Her voice was as sweet as honey, carrying an enchanting charm that would make anyone instinctively turn around just to see the person who spoke. However, Noan simply let out another sigh and asked, "Have you gathered enough?" Seeing Noan's indifference, SSS pouted, her expression slightly sulky. "Yes, I have. But I feel so exhausted. I need to recharge a little." "You're not a succubus anymore," Noan reminded her. But my instincts are still there, Master. You can't just abandon me." SSS acted pitifully, her large eyes shimmering as if she were about to cry. Anyone else seeing her like this would immediately grant her every desire. However, Noan was different. He had the distinct feeling that, no matter how much his strength had increased, she would still find a way to drain him dry. "Enough. Hand them over," Noan said immediately, not giving SSS room to argue. SSS let out a frustrated huff, her irritated expression still undeniably beautiful. She handed him a small pouch filled to the brim with energy crystals. "Ding! You have gathered enough rank E energy crystals. Do you wish to level up your Lord rank? Accept. Ding! Level up successfully. You have become a level 2 Lord. Ding! You have gained 1 hero summon." Noan's eyes flickered at the notification. It was time to summon again. Ding! New feature unlocked, Servitude Pact. Description: by using this feature, you can turn a lord into your slave without needing to destroy their territory. However, for this feature to succeed, the target must willingly submit and accept the servitude ritual. The number of slaves you can own is equal to your lord rank. Current slaves, 0/2. Noan was slightly surprised. He hadn't expected the system to grant him such a function. System, does everyone have this feature? Ding! You are the only one who possesses this function. Noan! A strange feeling crept into him. This wasn't the first time the system had given him exclusive abilities. What did it mean? Was his system somehow different from everyone else's? Noan didn't want to dwell on it too much. No matter how much he pondered, he wouldn't find an answer. Besides, if the system wasn't trying to harm him, that was enough for now. At that thought, a certain image flashed through his mind, the chained giant woman in the dark void. Though he couldn't see her face clearly, he somehow knew she was smiling. But the feeling lasted only for a fleeting moment before vanishing completely. Noan took a deep breath and shook his head. Right now, he was still too weak. When he became stronger, fate might allow him to cross paths with her again. After leveling up to Lord Rank 2, aside from gaining a new function and increasing his physical capabilities, Noan felt a new energy emerge. It was mana. Although the amount was small, it slightly increased his mana reserve limit. Just as he was about to test his new strength, there was a knock on the door. Hearing this, Noan smirked. "Viwilwisis," he said with amusement. "It seems your pawn is finally taking action." "Of course." Viwilwiss chuckled seductively before retreating into the shadows, vanishing from sight. Just like yesterday, a skeleton shielder opened the door. Caleb entered, still accompanied by a stone golem, but after yesterday's experience, he had it wait outside this time. Stepping into the room, he found Noan exactly as it had been the day before, sitting leisurely on the white sofa, his expression indifferent. Caleb gritted his teeth, lowered his head slightly, and said, "Yesterday, I came too hastily and didn't bring a proper gift. Today, I brought a small token of sincerity. I hope you'll accept it." He took out a small cloth pouch and an architectural blueprint from his belongings. Noan waved his hand, and a skeleton swordsman stepped forward, taking both items from Caleb's hands before placing them on the table in front of Noan. However, Noan didn't even glance at the offerings. Instead, he spoke in a calm voice. "Very well. I have received your gift. Now, then, why have you come to see me?" Caleb's mouth fell open in shock. He suddenly felt as if he had been tricked. "You just accepted my gift. You tricked me." Seeing Caleb stammering in frustration, Noan found the situation somewhat amusing. "Caleb, don't falsely accuse me," Noan said with a smirk. "When did I ever deceive you? You willingly brought me a gift, didn't you?" Caleb shuddered. A cold chill ran down his spine. At that moment, he realized he had just played the fool. This was a gift, not a bargaining chip for Noan's secret. Caleb knew Noan had deceived him, but more precisely, he had deceived himself. However, Caleb could not swallow his anger. Clenching his fists tightly, his eyes burned with fury as he glared at Noan. "You should know that no matter how strong you are, you will not have a favorable outcome when facing me. Moreover, I can rally other lords to attack you. If you think carefully, tell me your secret. Otherwise." Hearing this, Noan burst into laughter. "Ha ha! Caleb, it seems you still don't understand your current position. Do you really think you and those useless lords can defeat me? And even if you manage to kill me, then what? How will you deal with that massive horde of zombies afterward?" Caleb, upon hearing this, naturally understood what Noan meant. After all, Nolan possessed quite a number of high-ranking monsters, or perhaps an overwhelming power. If a battle truly broke out, even a single shield-bearing skeleton, which had once defeated his stone golem, would be enough to annihilate many lords. Even if they could defeat Noan, they would have little strength to fight against the zombie horde. Taking a deep breath, Caleb spoke. "Noan, since you know that zombie horde, I won't hide it from you. If we cooperate, we might still have a chance to survive. Otherwise, we will not gain any advantage if that zombie horde invades this region. What if I say no?" Noan showed Caleb no respect, his face expressing disdain and indifference. "You?" Caleb shouted in anger. But Noan continued, cutting him off. "If, back then, you had remained an ordinary person and stayed by my side as a friend, perhaps you wouldn't have to worry so much now. You were the one who pushed this relationship into the fire. Do you think what you've done is something I can easily forgive?" Caleb clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white, his face flushed with rage. "Noan, I admit I was wrong, but now is not the time for you to bring that up just to humiliate me. We are facing danger. Do you know how many rank E and D zombies are in that horde?" "I don't care," Noan immediately retorted. "Caleb, let's get one thing straight. You and the others are the ones in danger, not me. Noan's confidence came from a thorough investigation. In this region, no one had the power to defeat him. If Caleb wanted to accomplish that, he would need to gather more than 50 lords. However, would those lords truly follow his command? It was well known that under Caleb's rule, many lords had already formed secret alliances to overthrow him. Of course, Caleb was aware of this, but he refused to reveal his weakness and instability for Noan to see. Besides, even if Caleb could rally 50 lords to attack Noan, the chances of victory were nearly zero because Noan still had VYLYSS, his most powerful asset. With ZIS and VYLYSS at his disposal, Noan possessed extensive region knowledge. He even knew the precise strength of each lord. That was the source of his confidence. Conversely, Caleb found it incomprehensible, but in the end, he could only clench his fists tightly, swallowing his anger. "Speak. What do you want in exchange for that secret?" Caleb shouted in frustration. Noan chuckled. "That depends on how much you can offer to pique my interest. You should know that food is more valuable than energy crystals in this region. Whoever controls the food supply becomes the king, the one holding everyone's fate in their hands." Indeed, this world was unlike a cultivating world. Here, everyone needed food to survive. The higher one's rank, the more food they required. That was why food was indispensable. Caleb, of course, understood this. He gritted his teeth, feeling utterly hopeless. Everything he had, Noan had as well. Everything he lacked, Noan still possessed. So then, what does he have to offer in exchange? "All right then." Noan spoke as he saw Caleb remain silent. "Go back. You only have one more chance left." Caleb was startled at these words, but in the end, he could only leave in disappointment. After he'd gone, VYLYSS emerged from the shadows, a mischievous smile on her face as she sat on Noan's lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Master, aren't you afraid he might go against you?" Noan shook his head. "He won't. He's an extremely cautious person, and the more cautious he is, the more cowardly and fearful he becomes of things he doesn't fully understand. I'm just like him. The difference is, I understand him completely. That's why I'm this confident. I'm just a coward too." VYLYSS pouted slightly at his words. She truly wanted to tell him he was not that person. However, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Or perhaps Noan already knew exactly what she would say. At this moment, words were unnecessary, and all that remained was the sweet kiss she placed on his cheek. "Master, do you plan not to help him?" Noan shook his head. "Not exactly. I will help him, but I'm trying to find where his limit lies. If that limit is high enough, he will become our pawn in the future. At that point, I won't even need to show myself. He will be nothing more than a puppet king, while I will pull the strings." VYLYSS smirked seductively. "Master, you're so wicked." He lowered his head and kissed her hair. "I'm far more wicked than you think." "Really?" VYLYSS arched her back slightly, pressing the soft curves of her body against Noan. However, he didn't rush to indulge in the sweetness before him. "All right, give the order to Erlgug to stop hunting zombies." VYLYSS tilted her head in confusion. "Master, if we stop hunting zombies, how are we supposed to gather enough energy crystals to level up?" Noan shook his head. "We don't need to level up for now. Instead, we should let the zombies remain a looming threat to the other lords." VYLYSS instantly grasped Noan's plan and chuckled in amusement. "Master, you mean you want to push the lords in this region to the brink, and then—" "That's right," Noan said with a smile. "If I help them now, they won't be grateful. Instead, they'll see it as something natural. But if I wait until they're on the brink of death, until they are completely cornered, then my help will truly hold meaning. For now, there's no need to continue hunting zombies. I'll find another way to gather energy crystals. Besides, have you found a place to establish our base yet?" "Ah." VYLYSS immediately recalled the matter and replied, "Yes, but the place is a bit eerie. Master, do you want to take a look?" Noan gave a slight nod. However, before leaving, he wanted to check Caleb's blueprint and bag. "Ding! You have obtained the Architectural Blueprint Combat Simulation Room. Description: a facility that simulates combat, allowing lords and heroes to train. The combat simulation room can mimic any type of monster or lord. Construction requirements: 1,000 units of wood, 1,000 units of stone, 100 units of iron, 1,000 rank F energy crystals. Ding! You have obtained an unidentified crystal of unknown origin. It cannot be appraised at the moment. After placing both items into storage, 2 notifications from the system appeared. The combat simulation room caught Noan's attention the most. However, he didn't have enough resources to construct it. Looks like I need to gather more resources. Even though Noan owned the resource storage center, its production speed couldn't keep up with his consumption rate. In a day, it could only produce 200 units of wood, 200 units of stone, 200 food capsules, and 50 rank F energy crystals. Suddenly, a thought struck Noan. He could plunder resources from other lords. Seems like I can't keep hiding forever. Noan furrowed his brows, deep in thought. VYLYSS did not interrupt him, patiently waiting. After a while, Noan spoke. VYLYSS, take Erlgug and Erlgan into the food forest. VYLYSS immediately understood what Noan intended and smirked. Master, do you want us to wipe them all out? Or should we leave some survivors? Don't kill too many, Noan said, his face remaining indifferent. Leave a few alive to spread the message to the others. VYLYSS smiled. However, at this moment, that smile was filled with killing intent and an icy coldness that would terrify anyone who saw it. Even Zis and the second soul shuddered at the sight of that smile. VYLSS lightly kissed Noan's lips before laughing and saying, "As you command, my master." Immediately after, she completely vanished into a stream of black smoke. Noan took a deep breath. He knew that if he wanted to grow, he couldn't keep hiding like this forever. The resource production speed of the Resource Archive Center was too slow. He had no other way to gather more resources except by plundering them from other lords. Although he was cowardly, he was by no means a good person. He was neither a god nor a hero. He had no obligation to serve anyone. He would live for himself. Yes, he was selfish and greedy and was fine with that. If others wanted to be heroes, he didn't care. The second Zis looked at Noan, feeling somewhat puzzled. She had thought Noan was nothing more than a fool who only knew how to indulge in the filthy body of that succubus. But she hadn't expected that, when necessary, Noan could be even more cruel than anyone else. Zis sighed internally. It seems that if I ever regain control of this body, the first thing I must do is kill this brat. At first, she had intended to sever Noan's limbs and imprison him in the basement, forcing him to use his innate talent to help her evolve. But after witnessing his ruthless nature, she decided to kill him first. If, during the imprisonment, Zis were to let Noan escape with his terrifying talent, he would surely return for revenge. At this moment, Zis attempted to move and slightly wiggled her 2 front legs. However, it was just a faint twitch before stopping again. The remaining Zis was puzzled, not understanding why her front legs had moved, as she was unaware of the second Zis inside her body. TSK. The second Zis cursed internally. I can only take control of the front legs briefly. It seems I'll need to wait a little longer. However, she wasn't in a hurry. After all, Noan was completely unaware of her existence. If he continued evolving Zis, there would come a time when the second Zis could seize full control of the body. At that moment, Noan suddenly shivered, feeling as though someone wanted to kill him. But he shook his head, dismissing the thought, and mused, "It's probably Caleb. He wants to kill me. After all, I humiliated him to that extent and tricked him so badly." However, Noan wasn't afraid. He already had all the necessary information on Caleb. Even if Caleb risked everything, there was no chance of him winning. Noan stopped thinking about it and ordered, "System, summon a hero." Ding! Please wait a moment. Just then, a magic circle appeared, and a skeleton emerged. It looked like a regular skeleton, but was draped in a black cloak, revealing only its skull. It held a thick, ancient-looking book that radiated dark and sinister energy in its hand. Ding! Congratulations, Summoner! You have successfully summoned the legendary skeleton, Dark Mage. Name, Dark Mage. Race, Legendary Skeleton. Rank E, Level 0. Description: the Dark Mage is a legendary skeleton described in Holy Scriptures and ancient texts. The Dark Mage skeleton was a fearsome existence in the war of legendary beings. It could lead an army of weak skeletons and still defeat the warriors of the elf race. Evolution requirements: 6 rank E materials and 1,000 rank F energy crystals. What the hell is that? The second, Ziz was startled, looking at the Dark Mage skeleton. Although it wasn't particularly powerful, its sinister aura spread like black mist, enveloping the entire room. The sudden drop in temperature made Ziz feel uncomfortable. But what unsettled her even more was the terrifying nature of that evil aura. It could seep into and corrupt the souls of others. What kind of monstrous thing did that brat just summon? The second, Ziz cursed inwardly. She could feel her very soul trembling. If she remained in this black mist for too long, her soul might become tainted. Noan read the description and took a deep breath. Even though it was only ranked E, the Dark Mage skeleton radiated an aura so ominous and dangerous that even he felt a tinge of fear. Like a stream of smoke, the Dark Mage skeleton suddenly raised its hand, and the black mist instantly seeped back into its body. Then it knelt on one knee, placing its ancient book neatly on the ground. Its voice was filled with reverence. "My master, you are the supreme existence, the darkness that shrouds this world. Please wield me as death to punish the foolish beings beyond." No, he felt a headache. This Dark Mage skeleton talked too much. "What is your name?" Noan frowned and asked. "Please, great master, grant me a name." It bowed its head and replied. Noan pondered momentarily before deciding. "From now on, your name shall be Malric." He thought the name suited it well. Mal signified evil, while Rick represented an ancient warrior. Noan felt this name was a perfect match. "I am honored by the name my master has bestowed upon me." Malric lowered its head. "This is my greatest glory. I shall use the name given by my master to make the world tremble." That's enough. That's enough." Noan quickly interrupted. He let out a sigh. Malric truly talked too much. "I'll assign you a different task. You will follow VYLYSES's orders." Noan decided to hand Malric over to VYLYSES. He didn't have enough energy crystals or materials to evolve or level up Malric. Letting it follow VYLYSS was the best choice for now. At the very least, he wouldn't deal with the headache. In the afternoon, at the food forest. This forest had no official name, but because it was abundant with fruits and small animals, people simply called it the food forest. This place was quite large and always teeming with food. Even those who failed to hunt small animals could still find edible fruits or mushrooms. "Ha ha! Look at this!" A thin young man shouted excitedly. "I just found a huge mushroom." As he spoke, he lifted a mushroom as big as his head, proudly showing off his achievement. "Tis!" A woman accompanying him scoffed in annoyance. "No matter how big a mushroom is, it's still just a mushroom. It only fills your stomach, but has no real nutritional value." "This!" The young man scratched his head awkwardly upon hearing that. Another girl spoke up. "All right, even if it just fills our bellies, that's enough. After all, this is a barren region. Having food is already a blessing." "She's right," a slightly chubby man added. "As long as we have enough to eat, that matters." "All right, let's try to gather some more fruit and head back. We shouldn't stay here for too long." "Tis!" The woman from before clicked her tongue again. "No matter how much we gather, we'll still have to give half of it to those damn bastards. What's the point of trying so hard?" "Don't say that. Even if we have to give them half, we still have the other half. We're not as strong as them, so we have no choice but to endure." That was right. This group was the third team of the day, sent into the forest to gather food. Hey! Suddenly, a scream rang out, startling them. In fear, the thin young man exclaimed, "What the hell was that? Did you guys hear that scream?" The woman who always complained was also frightened. I heard it too. It sounded like it came from over there. Could it be that zombies attacked the other groups?" "Impossible. This place is very safe. How could zombies attack here? That's right. The other groups all said that as long as we don't leave the boundaries of this forest, we won't be attacked by zombies. Then what the hell was that scream just now? Everyone fell silent, a sense of unease creeping into their hearts. Hey! Suddenly, another scream echoed, making them jump. This time, the scream was closer, much closer. They turned their heads and looked into the distance. There, a young man was running towards them, his body covered in fresh blood, his face filled with sheer terror. Hey! No! He saw the group standing before him, but he didn't care. He kept running with every ounce of strength. The group wanted to call out to ask what had happened, but bam! At that moment, a dark shadow appeared behind the young man, and then a deafening explosion rang out. The young man was struck by something, causing his body to explode into a shower of blood instantly. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, even reaching those standing more than 10 meters away. Silence. A silence so profound that everyone present could hear their breathing. At this moment, they could see that the dark figure was a monstrous creature over 2 meters tall, its outer skin as black as metal. 2 sharp fangs curved upward, and it gripped a spike club weighing more than 200 kilograms in its hand. Even from a great distance, they could feel the overwhelming danger and the chilling presence of death emanating from it. AAA. No one knew who screamed first, but the crowd immediately broke into a frantic escape as soon as the cry rang out. Yes, the monster they had just witnessed was none other than Erlgan. To him, these lords were no different from ants, while he was the giant towering over them. After evolving to rank D peak and being further strengthened by Noan using the remaining skeletons, Erlgan's power had increased by more than 20% compared to before. Additionally, thanks to the artifact Pioneer's Medal, Erlgan and the other monsters under Noan's control received another 20% boost in strength. It could be said that Erlgan's power had now reached an utterly terrifying level. Watching the terrified and panicked crowd flee, Erlgan's eyes remained emotionless. To him, those weaker than him were mere insects. Just as humans kill ants without guilt or sorrow, he feels nothing in this moment. Without hesitation, Erlgan lunged toward the fleeing people, swinging the spike club in his hand. Bam! Instantly, the frail young man's body was smashed into a gruesome mix of blood and flesh. Hey! The girl who often complained fell to the ground when the young man's blood splattered onto her face. Panicking, she frantically wiped her eyes with her sleeve, but as soon as she looked ahead, she saw Erlgan. His massive figure, the terrifying aura, and the breath of death emanating from him made her tremble so violently that she wet herself. No, she stammered, trembling. Please don't kill me, please. Erlgan tilted his head slightly, swung the club in his hand, and, bam! A series of explosions echoed, and the forest again sank into silence. Erlgan glanced around. Seeing that only one survivor remained, he turned and left. The fat man sat on the ground, trembling like a dog before a lion. He was certain his life would end here, but the monster simply turned away, ignoring him completely. Realizing this, the man was overjoyed, but his legs shook so badly that he couldn't stand up. With no other choice, he could only crawl on the ground. What? Caleb furrowed his brows and shouted. A monster appeared in the food forest? Are you joking with me? It was nighttime. The usual gathering place for Caleb's subordinates is in a small wooden house by the river. After hearing their report, Caleb could no longer hide his shock and fear. He trusted that his subordinates wouldn't lie to him, but this was simply too unbelievable. A zombie attack. Caleb frowned and asked. He asked because the zombie horde was just over 10 miles from the food forest. If that horde had reached the food forest, it would mean their food supply had been completely cut off. A young man said, "It doesn't seem to be zombies." Hearing that, Caleb frowned and said, "Explain clearly." The young man nodded and said, "Boss, according to the only survivor, it wasn't a zombie, but a monster resembling the orc race. It was over 2 meters tall, its entire body covered in a tough black hide that looked like metal, and it wielded a massive spiked club. Its strength was terrifying. Just one swing of its club could explode a person into pieces. It could even snap a tree over 10 meters tall with bare hands. What's even more outrageous is, after those lords died, their territories were completely looted. Not a single thing was left behind. Caleb took a deep breath, fear creeping into his heart. The moment he heard that the dead lord's territories had been looted, he immediately thought of Noan. However, he quickly dismissed that thought. Why? Because Noan's soldiers were all skeletons. Besides, based on his subordinate's description, the monster's strength seemed to have surpassed rank D, nearing rank C, or perhaps it had already reached rank C. He had to acknowledge that even his stone golem couldn't break a 10-meter tree with its hands, nor could it obliterate a lord in a single strike. If Noan had such overwhelming power, he would have wiped out all the lords in this area long ago. Why would he need such a complicated scheme? Caleb furrowed his brows and asked, "Is there any way to find out who looted the dead lord's territories?" The young man shook his head. Caleb glanced at the others. They also shook their heads, looking at him in confusion. He frowned and asked, "How many people have died so far?" "As of now, 17 people have died. They were members of 3 different lord groups who entered the food forest in turn, along with 3 of our members," the young man reported. Only 1 person survived. Caleb wasn't surprised at all. In fact, he found this completely natural. After all, many people were there. One lucky survivor wasn't unexpected. Caleb stroked his chin, deep in thought. If that monster is an orc, then this isn't too difficult, Caleb thought. If it had been a zombie, the spread of a virus could have threatened the survival of this entire region. But if it was an orc, he didn't have to worry about that. "I understand." Caleb nodded and said, "Gather the 30 strongest lords to follow me. We're going to kill that monster." "Boss," another person spoke up, "are you planning to attack it? Are you afraid?" Caleb frowned. "No." The young man grinned and laughed. I've been feeling bored lately, so I want to fight for a change." "Me too," another person added. "We've been here for so long without a proper battle. Now that we have the chance, we have to seize it. It's just a monster. Even if it's rank D, there's no way it can stand against such many lords." Seeing everyone's confidence, an inexplicable sense of unease crept into Caleb's heart. It was like a massive hand pulling strings behind the scenes. However, he quickly dismissed the thought, thinking he was being overly suspicious. If someone could control such a terrifying monster, they would have emerged and become this region's ruler. Besides, this area was filled only with rank F and rank E lords. Caleb refused to believe that someone with overwhelmingly superior strength would appear here. Could it be Noan? No, Caleb didn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. After everyone left, Anna remained behind. She approached Caleb and gently asked, "Caleb, are you worried?" Caleb took Anna's hand, frowned, and said, "You don't need to come with me. Just stay here at home. I must face an incredibly powerful monster this time, but don't worry. No matter how strong it is, as long as we gather the lords, killing it will be easy." Caleb reasoned that he wasn't wrong. The intelligence of most wild monsters was low, making them easy to trap. That was why he felt so confident. He believed that as long as he prepared adequately, even if that monster was rank D or even D+, it wouldn't be able to defeat them. Moreover, Caleb refused to believe that even with the combined strength of over 30 lords, they couldn't take down a mere rank D monster. He was convinced that with the lord's power and intellect, they could still emerge victorious even if the monster was rank C. Anna nodded and said, "However, I think you shouldn't take too many people with you, and you don't need to be the one to fight." Caleb was puzzled. "Why?" "Caleb," Anna gently explained, "I'm afraid this might be a trap. What if it's all fake?" Caleb frowned. "Impossible. Would they dare to deceive me? And what would be the purpose of that?" "Of course, to lure you out of your territory. Then, they would work together to kill you." Hearing Anna's words, Caleb suddenly shuddered. He began piecing the events together and realized she might not be wrong. He knew that while he was strong, not every lord feared him. On the contrary, he knew that many lords had secretly allied, forming small factions to eliminate him. However, he possessed a rank D plus hero and a rank D hero, so he never paid much attention to those weaker lords. But what if this was a trap? What if one of his subordinates was planning to betray him? A chill ran down Caleb's spine as he envisioned a perfectly laid-out scheme. They could have fabricated a false story to lure him to the food forest, where they would ambush him. That forest was far from his territory, so far that even if he managed to escape, it would take him a long time to return. And if multiple lords surrounded him, no matter how strong his heroes were, they would eventually be overwhelmed. Cold sweat trickled down Caleb's forehead, yet he didn't feel hot. Instead, an icy dread seeped into his bones. Gripping Anna's hand tightly, he took a deep breath and said, "Thank you, Anna. If not for you, I would have walked right into a massive trap." "Anna, what do you think I should do now? I can't just retract my orders and ignore the rumors about a monster appearing in the food forest. I have to go there to verify the truth." Anna chuckled and said, "Caleb, you're usually so smart. Why are you being so foolish now?" Caleb didn't feel embarrassed by her words. Lately, too many things had happened, leaving him no time to rest. His exhaustion had directly affected his emotions and thoughts, making it difficult for him to analyze everything carefully. "It's very simple," Anna said. "You don't need to take so many lords with you. Half that number is enough. If they plan to betray you, you'll still have a higher chance of winning or at least escaping. If there truly is a terrifying monster in that forest, you don't need to fight, just observe from a distance. The more lords that die, the fewer threats you'll face in the future." "But," Caleb frowned, "won't too many lords dying cause a problem?" "Ha!" Anna suddenly smiled. "Caleb, those lords are dying because the monster killed them. It has nothing to do with you." That's right." Caleb looked as if he had been enlightened, a ruthless grin spreading across his face. "You're right. The monster killed them. It has nothing to do with me." "Thank you, Anna. I'm lucky to have you by my side." Anna nodded gently, caressing his face. Remember, your safety is the top priority." "I understand. Tomorrow, I'll see you again." With that, Caleb hurried off. As soon as he was gone, the expression on Anna's face vanished, like she had become a completely different person. She walked to the door and checked outside, and once she was sure Caleb was far away, she returned inside, shut the door tightly, and knelt on the ground. "Master!" Anna's voice was filled with reverence. A stunningly beautiful figure emerged from the shadows, stepping in front of Anna. It was Vylys. She smiled gracefully, her voice dripping with allure. "You did well. Continue watching him and follow my instructions. Do you understand?" At that moment, Anna's eyes flickered with a pink glow, but it quickly faded. She lowered her head and responded, "Yes, master." The next day, Caleb reduced the number of lords accompanying him to just 15. Besides them, he brought only 2 of his subordinates, one of whom was Adrian. "Boss, are you sure this is a good idea?" Adrian asked worriedly. He had heard all the stories about the monster lurking in the food forest, and naturally, he was both anxious and terrified about coming here. After all, he was just an F+ rank lord, while the monster was rumored to be at least rank D. The difference between F+ and rank D was vast, like comparing a flashlight to the sun. Caleb frowned. "Are you this cowardly? Look at the number of creatures we've brought. Even if that monster is rank D, we could defeat it. Besides," Caleb suddenly raised his hand, and the stone golem, walking behind him, immediately stepped forward. "See this? This is my hero, the stone golem, rank D+. Do you think we'll lose?" Adrian looked ahead. A horde of monsters was marching forward, but most were skeletons, goblins, and other low-tier creatures. Among them were the heroes of the other lords who had joined today's expedition. Yet, despite the numbers, Adrian couldn't shake off his unease. Instead of feeling reassured, an inexplicable sense of dread gnawed at him. "Boss, why did you reduce the number of lords we brought?" Adrian asked, confused. "And why did you only bring me and that kid? Isn't this too reckless?" Caleb narrowed his eyes. Are you questioning my decision? No, no, not at all. Adrian quickly responded. Boss, you misunderstood me. I'm only concerned for your safety. Huh, Caleb scoffed. Adrian, you're too timid. Ultimately, it's just a single monster. Why bring too many people? Besides, the more people we bring, the more chaotic it becomes. There are some among them with ulterior motives. Adrian tensed. Boss, are you saying that someone might betray us? Exactly, Caleb nodded. Adrian was stunned. He glanced at the others before shifting his gaze back to Caleb. Boss, would they dare betray you? Aren't they afraid of you? Caleb shook his head. Adrian, despite being weak, some people believe themselves to be heroes. In their eyes, I am the Demon King, and they are the saviors destined to slay me and liberate this region. But reality is far crueler than their fantasies. While I don't fear those insects, even ants can bite an elephant to death if there are enough of them. That's why we must always be cautious. Understand? Adrian gave a thumbs up, admiration written all over his face. Boss, you are brilliant. I've always been brilliant, Caleb replied with a frown. Adrian scratched his head, a bit embarrassed, but internally he felt relieved. Bam! If he had followed Anna's suggestion earlier and joined the group plotting against Caleb, he would likely be among those under Caleb's suspicion now. Boss, Adrian hesitated before deciding to speak up. Did you know that there's a traitor among us? Caleb shot him a sharp look, making Adrian tense up. I only found out by chance. Adrian stammered nervously. Who? It's Anna. Caleb nearly laughed, but managed to restrain himself, instead adopting a slightly irritated expression. I know, he said, but we need to wait a little longer. Of course, he knew, because Anna was his spy. He had placed her there to uncover any traitors plotting against him. At this moment, Caleb could officially remove Adrian from his list of suspected traitors. Adrian was about to say something else when a strange noise interrupted them. Crack, crack, crack. Boss, did you hear that? Adrian asked anxiously. Caleb frowned, remaining silent as he peered into the distance. Then he suddenly shouted, Everyone prepare for battle. A cloud of dust rose in the distance, as if a massive tree had just fallen. He wasn't sure if it was the monster, but it was better to be safe than sorry. Whoosh! A gust of wind suddenly swept past Caleb, sending chills down his spine and making his skin crawl. What the hell? An ominous feeling surged through him, prompting him to position the stone golem directly in front of him as a shield. Boss! Adrian shouted in fear. Caleb's eyes widened at the sight before him. A tree. Yes, a tree, more than 10 meters tall and over 2 meters thick, was hurtling toward them at the speed of an arrow. Defend. Now, Caleb hadn't finished his sentence, and the other lords hadn't yet realized what was happening when a massive tree trunk hurtled toward them. The trunk flew straight at them, lying horizontally and stretching over 10 meters. The monsters the lords had brought along were all low-rank creatures with extremely poor reflexes, which meant boom, boom, boom. The trunk was like an enormous steamroller, crushing the feeble monsters beneath its weight. Unable to escape in time, 2 unlucky lords were also turned into nothing more than a bloody mess. Caleb and Adrian were fortunate to stand further away and thus remained unscathed. However, they were still terrified, immediately retreating backward. Don't be afraid. Though he himself was deeply shaken, Caleb still shouted, Spread the soldiers out. Don't let that monster attack in clusters. Caleb was right. If they kept their troops grouped, all it would take was another thrown tree like the last one, and the casualties would be devastating. If they didn't act now, even without seeing the monster, they might all be dead before it revealed itself. The other lords were only F rank at best, with the highest among them being E rank. Their combat experience was minimal, leaving them clueless about what to do. Seeing the chaos unfolding, Caleb frowned. Are you all idiots? Give orders to your troops. Use your voices. Hearing this, the lords immediately followed Caleb's command. However, their lack of battle experience made their actions clumsy and uncoordinated. Whoosh! A sharp gust of wind sliced through the air. Caleb saw another massive tree trunk, no smaller than the previous one, hurled toward them. Mother! Caleb couldn't hold back his curse. What the hell is going on? At that moment, a sense of panic gripped him. He hadn't even caught a glimpse of the monster's form, yet nearly a tenth of the Lord's soldiers had already been wiped out. If this continued, they would all be dead before the monster appeared. Hurry! Hide behind the bigger trees! Caleb shouted. He didn't care whether the other lords heard him or not. Without hesitation, he turned around and searched for cover first. Seeing Caleb running, Adrian immediately followed him. The stone golem ran behind, shielding Caleb, who was lucky enough to find a large rock to hide behind. From their cover, Caleb and Adrian peeked out and saw that the other lords were hastily retreating with their troops, having already accepted defeat before even engaging in battle. At that moment, a sudden gust of wind swept through, carrying a massive cloud of dust toward them. The dust engulfed everything in an instant, thick like fog, obscuring all vision. No, it wasn't just about losing sight of the path ahead. They could see nothing within a mere 3 to 5 meters in front of them. Caleb and Adrian were no exception. They, too, were swallowed by the thick dust. Caleb grimaced, pulling up his sleeve to cover his nose, trying to block the dust from invading his lungs. What the hell is happening? He cursed under his breath. Could all of this be the work of that monster? If his suspicion was correct, then that monster was far too intelligent. Terrifying strength, overwhelming combat abilities, and the ability to set up such a massive trap. There was no way the creature was just rank D or lower. It had to be at least rank C. Yet Caleb still couldn't believe that such a powerful monster had appeared in an area dominated by rank E and F lords. How are they supposed to survive this? Even though the battle hadn't officially started, Caleb could already feel things spiraling out of his control. However, another thought crossed his mind. This isn't so bad. Their deaths won't affect me. On the contrary, if they die, it will weaken the forces of those who want to betray me. Right now, I must find a way to retreat from this place. Caleb thought about running, but with the thick dust surrounding him, he couldn't find a way out of the forest. He also didn't dare to wander. He was as good as dead if he accidentally stepped into the monster's territory. For that reason, he decided to wait. Boss, W, what should we do? Adrian stammered. Wait, Caleb replied. Wait? If that monster comes, W will be killed, won't we? Adrian's voice trembled with fear. He had just witnessed a horrifying scene. No, it was a nightmare beyond comprehension for an F+ rank lord who had never participated in a brutal battle before. Shut for a moment. Caleb snapped, irritated. What if that monster hears you? Adrian immediately clamped his mouth shut, not daring to utter another word. In the safety of secure territory, he had always acted arrogant and domineering, bullying those weaker than himself. But here, he was like a frightened rabbit, trembling in fear, anxiety written all over his face. That was just human nature. Against those weaker people oppressed. Against those stronger, they cowered like meek lambs. Bam! 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 AAA! Help! Help me! AAA! Suddenly, a series of deafening explosions erupted, followed by the agonized screams of the other lords echoing through the space around them. Caleb had no idea what was happening. Fear gripped him, but at the same time, curiosity gnawed at him. Slowly, he peeked out from behind the large rock, trying to glimpse the chaos in the distance. The area was still shrouded in dust, but he could make out countless shadowy figures running aimlessly. Whether they were soldiers or lords, he couldn't tell. Mixed with the desperate screams and cries of terror, the sounds of explosions continued without pause, showing no sign of stopping. A shiver ran down Caleb's spine. He suddenly felt as if a pair of bloodthirsty eyes were watching him. He glanced around, desperately trying to locate the monster. But no matter how hard he strained his eyes, the dense dust blocked his vision completely. Clenching his teeth, Caleb felt the fear inside him swelling. Every intuition of his being screamed at him to run, to escape this place as fast as possible. But he knew blindly running in this situation would only bring death faster. Suddenly, he saw a dark figure slowly moving toward him. His body tensed, his heart pounding violently in his chest. Caleb wanted to say something, but his lips quivered uncontrollably, unable to produce a single sound. Adrian, on the other hand, didn't even dare to look. Without hesitation, he turned and fled, vanishing into the thick fog of dust. "Mother!" Caleb cursed, unable to hold back his frustration. However, he no longer had time to worry about Adrian. The shadowy figure was getting closer, and with each step, Caleb felt his fear intensify. Swallowing hard, he immediately gave the order, "Stone Golem, attack!" The stone golem, standing beside the large rock, sprang into motion. It lunged at the shadow, raising its massive fist. "Help!" Suddenly, just as the figure came within 5 meters of Caleb, he could see it clearly. A lord, limping, covered in blood, with one arm severed, as if a wild beast had bitten it off. "Stop!" Caleb ordered, but it was too late. Bam! The stone golem's fist smashed straight into the lord's head, instantly reducing it to a gory explosion of blood and white brain matter that splattered everywhere. Caleb stood frozen, his face as pale as a sickly patient suffering from severe blood loss. His body trembled uncontrollably. He could feel the warmth of the Lord's blood and flesh sticking to his skin. Taking a deep breath, he accidentally inhaled the thick, metallic scent of blood mixed with dust, causing him to cough violently. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself to regain even a sliver of composure before giving his next order. "Golem, stay by my side." The stone golem, an emotionless machine, obeyed without hesitation. Caleb crouched behind the rock, shaking. All he wanted was for the dust to clear so he could escape this nightmarish place. 10 minutes passed. The explosions had stopped. The screams had faded into nothingness. An eerie silence blanketed the battlefield. It was so quiet that Caleb could hear his breath, his heartbeat pounding violently in his chest, as if it were trying to break free from his ribcage. Then, suddenly, he felt the sky darken. Looking up, he saw a sight that made him forget even the thought of running. It wasn't the sky turning dark. The massive creature was standing before him, so colossal that it blocked out all the light.